Section 1 of the Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Adrian Wheel. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Section 1. Letters 40 to 44. Note that the numbering continues from Volume 1, which contains letters 1 to 39. Letters from Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton. Letter 40. Victory, under Majorca, January the 13th, 1804. My own dear, beloved Emma, I received on the 9th your letters of September the 29th, October the 2nd, 7th, 10th, 12th, 17th, November the 5th, 8th to the 24th, and I am truly sensible of all your kindness and affectionate regard for me, which I am sure is reciprocal in every respect from your own Nelson. If that Lady Bitch knew of that person's coming to her house, it was a trick, but which I hope you will not subject yourself to again, but I do not like it. However, it is past, and we must have confidence in each other, and, my dearest Emma, judging of you by myself, it is not all the world that could seduce me, in thought, word, or deed, from all my soul holds most dear. Indeed, if I can help it, I never intend to go out of the ship, but to the shore of Portsmouth, and that will be, if it pleases God, before next Christmas. Indeed, I think long before, if the French will venture to sea. I send you a letter from the Queen of Naples. They call out might and main for our protection, and God knows they are sure of me. Mr. Elliot complains heavily of the expense, and says he will retire the moment it is peace. He expected his family, when they would sit down 11 Elliots. If, my dear Emma, you are to mind all the reports you may hear, you may always be angry with your Nelson. In the first place, instead of 8 days, Mr. Accord, he came on board 1 day, just before dinner, and left me next morning after breakfast. What pleasure people can have in telling lies! But I care not what they say, I defy them all. You may safely rely that I can for ever repeat with truth these words: for ever I love you, and only you, my Emma, and you may be assured, as long as you are the same to me, that you are never absent a moment from my thoughts. I am glad you are going to Merton. You will live much more comfortable and much cheaper than in London, and this spring, if you like to have the house altered, you can do it, but I fancy you will soon tire of so much dirt, and the inconvenience will be very great the whole summer. All I request, if you fix to have it done, is that Mr. Davison's architect, who drew the plan, may have the inspection, and he must take care that it does not exceed the estimate. If it's done by contract, you must not alter, or a bill is run up, much worse than if we had never contracted. Therefore, I must either buy the materials and employ respectable workmen, under the architect, or contract. I rather believe it would be better for me to buy the materials, and put out the building to a workman, but you must get some good advice. With respect to the new entrance, Letter 41. Victory, March the 14th, 1804, off Toulon. Young Faddy, my dearest Emma, brought me 2 days ago your dear and most kind letter of November the 26th, and you are sure that I shall take a very early opportunity of promoting him, and he appears to be grown a fine young man, but vacancies do not happen very frequently in this station. However, if he behaves well, he may be sure of me. With respect to Mr. Jefferson, I can neither say nor do anything. The surgeon of the Victory is a very able, excellent man, and the ship is kept in the most perfect state of health, and I would not, if I could, but thank God I cannot, do such an unjust act as to remove him. He is my own asking for, and I have every reason to be perfectly content. Mr. Jefferson got on by my help, and by his own misconduct he got out of a good employ, and has seen another person at Malta Hospital put over his head. He must now begin again, and act with much more attention and sobriety than he has done, to ever get forward again. But time may do much, and I shall rejoice to hear of his reformation. I am not surprised, my dearest Emma, at the enormous expenses of the watering place. But if it has done my own Emma service, it is well laid out. £1,000 a year will not go far, and we need be great economists to make both ends meet, and to carry on the little improvements. As for making 1 farthing more prize money, I do not expect it, except by taking the French fleet, and the event of that day who can foresee? With respect to Mrs. Grafer, what she has done God and herself knows, but I have made up my mind that Gibbs will propose £100 a year for her. If so, I shall grant it and have done. I send you Mrs. Grafer's last letter. Whilst I am upon the subject of Brontë, I have one word more, and your good dear kind heart must not think that I shall die 1 hour the sooner. On the contrary, my mind has been more content ever since I have done. I have left you a part of the rental of Brontë, to be first paid every half year, and in advance. It is but common justice, and whether Mr. Addington gives you anything or not, you will want it. I would not have you lay out more than is necessary at Merton. The rooms and the new entrance will take a good deal of money. The entrance by the corner I would have certainly done. A common white gate will do for the present, and one of the cottages, which is in the barn, can be put up as a temporary lodge. The road could be made to a temporary bridge, for that part of the Nile, one day, shall be filled up. Downing's canvas awning will do for a passage. For the winter, the carriage can be put in the barn, and giving up Mr. Bennet's premises will save £50 a year, and another year we can fit up the coach-house and stables, which are in the barn. The footpath should be turned. I did show Mr. Hazelwood the way I wished it done, and Mr. So-and-so will have no objections if we make it better than ever it has been, and I also beg, as my dear Horatio is to be at Merton, that a strong netting, about 3 foot high, may be placed round the Nile, that the little thing may not tumble in, and then you may have ducks again in it. I forget at what place we saw the netting, and either Mr. Perry or Mr. Goldsmith told us where it was to be bought. I shall be very anxious until I know this is done. I have had no very late opportunities of sending to Naples, but via Malta I wrote to Gibbs to desire he would send over and purchase the Amarin. They will arrive in time. I hope the watch is arrived safe. The British Fair cutter, I hope, is arrived safe. She has 3 packets from me to England. The expenses of the alterations at Merton you are not to pay from the income. Let it all be put to a separate account, and I will provide a fund for the payment. All I long for just now is to hear that you are perfectly recovered, and then I care for nothing. All my hopes are to see you and be happy at dear Merton again. But I fear this miscarriage of Pichegru's in France will prolong the war. It has kept the French fleet in port, which we are all sorry for. Sir William Bolton was on board yesterday. He looks thin. The fag in a brig is very great, and I see no prospect of his either making prize money or being made post at present, but I shall omit no opportunity. I wrote to Mrs. Bolton a few months ago, and gave her letter yesterday to Bolton. He conducts himself very well indeed. Ever, my dearest Emma, for ever, I am your most faithful and affectionate Nelson and Brontë. Although I cannot well afford it, yet I could not bear that poor blind Mrs. Nelson should be in want in her old days, and sell her plate. Therefore, if you will find out what are her debts, if they come within my power, I will certainly pay them. Many, I dare say, if they had commanded here, would have made money, but I can assure you, for prizes taken within the Mediterranean, I have not more than paid my expenses. However, I would rather pinch myself than she, poor soul, should want. Your good angelic heart, my dearest beloved Emma, will fully agree with me. Everything is very expensive, and even we find it and would be obliged to economise if we assist our friends, and I am sure we should feel more comfort in it than in loaded tables and entertaining a set of people who care not for us. An account is this moment brought me that a small sum is payable to me for some neutral taken off Cadiz in May 1800, so I shall not be poorer for my gift. It is odd, is it not? I shall, when I come home, settle £4,000 in trustees' hands for Horatia, for I will not put it in my own power to have her left destitute, for she should want friends if we left her in this world. She shall be independent of any smiles or frowns. I am glad you are going to take her home, and if you will take the trouble with Eliza and Anne, I am the very last to object. Tom I shall certainly assist at college, and I am sure the Doctor expects that I should do the same for Horace, but I must make my arrangements so as not to run in debt. April the 9th. I have wrote to the Duke, but by your account I fear he is not alive. I write because you wish me, and because I like the Duke, and hope he will leave you some money, but for myself, I can have no right to expect a farthing, nor would I be a legacy hunter for the world. I never knew any good come from it. I send you a letter from Mr. Falconet. I am afraid they have made a jumble about the Amaranth, and I send you a very impertinent letter from that old cat. I have sent her a very dry answer, and told her I should send the sweetmeats to you. I always hated the old bitch. But was she young and as beautiful as an angel? I am engaged. I am all soul and body my Emma's, nor would I change her for all this world could give me. I would not have Horatia think of a dog. I shall not bring her one, and I am sure she is better without a pet of that sort. But she is like her mother, would get all the old dogs in the place about her. April the 14th. I am so seasick that I cannot write another line, except to say, God Almighty bless you, my dearest beloved Emma. Praise ever your faithful Nelson and Bronté. Letter 42. Victory, April the 2nd, 1804. I have, my dearest beloved Emma, been so uneasy for this last month, desiring most ardently to hear of your well-doing. Captain Capel brought me your letters, sent by the Thisbe from Gibraltar. I opened, found none but December and early in January. I was in such an agitation. At last I found one without a date, which, thank God, told my poor heart that you was recovering, but that dear little Emma was no more, and that Horatia had been so very ill. It altogether upset me. But it was just at bedtime, and I had time to reflect, and be thankful to God for sparing you and our dear Horatia. I am sure the loss of one, much more both, would have drove me mad. I was so agitated as it was that I was glad it was night, and that I could be by myself. Kiss dear Horatia for me, and tell her to be a dutiful and good child, and if she is, that we shall always love her. You may, if you like, tell Mrs. G. that I shall certainly settle a small pension on her. It shall not be large, as we may have the pleasure of making her little presents, and, my dearest Emma, I shall not be wanting to everybody who has been kind to you, be they servants or gentlefolks. Admiral Lutwidge is a good man, and I like Mrs. Lutwidge, and shall always more, because she is fond of you. Never mind the great Bashaw at the Priory, he be damned. If he was single and had a mind to marry you, he could only make you a Marchioness, but as he is situated, and I situated, I can make you a Duchess, and if it pleases God, that time may arrive. Amen. Amen. As for Lady H., she is no way as great a pimp as any of them. What a set! But if they manage their own intrigues, is not that enough? I am sure neither you or I care what they do, much less envy them their chère amie. As for Lord S. and the other, I care nothing about them, for I have every reason by my own feelings towards you to think you care only for your Nelson. I have not heard of your receiving the little box from Naples. Bracelets, I fancy, but I did not open them. I wish the Amaranth may come in time for the conveyance of Captain Layman, who has, most unfortunately, lost his sloop. He is strongly recommended by the Governor and garrison of Gibraltar, but perhaps he may not be able to obtain it. We have such reports about the King's health, that the present ministry may be out, and, for what I know or care, another set may be no better, for you or me. As for the Admiralty, let who will be in, they can neither do me any great good or harm. They may vex me a little, but that will recoil upon themselves. I hope, however, they will confirm Captain Layman, for he is attached not only to me, but is a very active officer. But it was his venturing to know more about India than Trowbridge that made them look shy upon him, and his tongue runs too fast. I often tell him not to let his tongue run so fast, or his pen write so much. Letter 43. Victory, off Toulon, April the 10th, 1804. My dearest Emma, I have received all your truly kind and affectionate letters to January the 25th by the Thisbe, and last night your letter of January the 13th by Naples. The Amaranth will go under the care of Captain Layman, who unfortunately lost his sloop, but, with much credit to himself, he has been acquitted of all blame. I rejoice that dear Horatio is got well, and also that you, my dearest Emma, are recovered of your severe indisposition. In our present situation with Spain, this letter, probably, may never reach you. I have wrote fully, and intend to send them by the Argus, who I expect to join every minute. Elfie Bay, I hear, has had all his fine things taken from him. He escaped into the desert, and is pursued. Probably his head is off, long before this time. The French fleet came out on the 5th, but went in again next morning. Yesterday, a rear admiral and 7 sail of ships, including frigates, put their nose outside the harbour. If they go on playing this game, some day we shall lay salt upon their tails, and so end the campaign of, my dearest Emma, your most faithful and affectionate. I am glad to hear that you are going to take my dear Horatia to educate her. She must turn out an angel, if she minds what you say to her, and Eliza and Anne will never forget your goodness. My health is so. I shall get through the summer, and in the winter shall go home. You will readily fancy all I would say and do think. My kind love to all friends. Letter 44. Victory, April the 19th, 1804. My dearest Emma, I had wrote you a line intended for the swift cutter, but instead of her joining me, I had the mortification not only to hear that she was taken, but that all the dispatches and letters had fallen into the hands of the enemy. A very pretty piece of work. I was not surprised at the capture, but am very much so that any dispatches should be sent in a vessel with 23 men, not equal to cope with any rowboat privateer. As I do not know what letters of yours are in her, I cannot guess what will be said. I suppose there will be a publication. The loss of the Hindustan was great enough, but for importance it is lost in comparison to the probable knowledge the enemy will obtain of our connections with foreign countries. Foreigners forever say, and it is true, we dare not trust England. One way or other we are sure to be committed. However, it is now too late to launch out on this subject. Not a thing has been saved out of the Hindustan, not a second shirt for any one, and it has been by extraordinary exertions that the people's lives were saved. Captain Hallowell is so good as to take home for me wines as by the enclosed list, and if I can, some honey. The Spanish honey is so precious that if any one has a cut or sore throat, it is used to cure it. I mention this in case you should wish to give the Duke a jar. The smell is wonderful. It is to be produced nowhere but in the mountains near Rosas. The Cyprus wine, 1 hogshead, was for Bonaparte. I would recommend the wine cooper drawing it off, and you can send a few dozens to the Duke, who I know takes a glass every day at 2 o'clock. I wish I had anything else to send you, but, my dearest Emma, you must take the will for the deed. I am pleased with Charlotte's letter, and as she loves my dear Horatia, I shall always like her. What hearts those must have who do not! But thank God she shall not be dependent on any of them. Your letter of February the 12th, through Mr. Falconet, I have received. I know they are all read, therefore never sign your name. I shall continue to write, through Spain, but never say a word that can convey any information, except of eternal attachment and affection for you, and that I care not who knows, for I am for ever and ever your, only your, Nelson and Bronté. Poor Captain Le Gros had your note to him in his pocket-book, and that was all he saved. Mr. Este left him at Gibraltar, and went to Malta in the Thisbe. Captain Le Gros is now trying, I think it will turn out, that every person is obliged to his conduct for saving their lives. She took fire 13 leagues from the land. End of section 1. Recording by Adrian Wheel. Section 2 of The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Adrian Wheel. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Section 2. Letters 45 to 50. Letter 45. Victory, April the 23rd, 1804. My dearest Emma, Hallowell has promised me, if the Admiralty will give him leave to go to London, that he will call at Merton. His spirit is certainly more independent than almost any man's I ever knew, but, I believe, he is attached to me. I am sure he has no reason to be so to either Trowbridge or any one at the Admiralty. I have sent last night a box of maraschino veritabile of Zara, which I got Jemmy Anderson to buy for me, and 12 bottles of Tokay. I have kept none for myself, being better pleased that you should have it. I am, ever and for ever, your most faithful and affectionate Nelson and Brontë. Hallowell parted last night, but being in sight, I am sending a frigate with a letter to the Admiralty. May God Almighty bless you, and send us a happy meeting. Letter 46. Victory, May the 5th, 1804. I find, my dearest Emma, that your picture is very much admired by the French consul at Barcelona, and that he has not sent it to be admired, which I am sure it would be, by Bonaparte. They pretend that there were 3 pictures taken. I wish I had them, but they are all gone, as irretrievably as the dispatches, unless we may read them in a book, as we printed their correspondence from Egypt. But, from us, what can they find out? That I love you, most dearly, and hate the French, most damnably? Dr. Scott went to Barcelona to try to get the private letters, but I fancy they are all gone to Paris. The Swedish and American consuls told him that the French consul had your picture, and read your letters, and Doctor thinks one of them probably read the letters. By the master's account of the cutter, I would not have trusted a pair of old shoes in her. He tells me she did not sail, but was a good sea-boat. I hope Mr. Marsden will not trust any more of my private letters in such a conveyance. If they choose to trust the affairs of the public in such a thing, I cannot help it. I long for the invasion being over. It must finish the war, and I have no fears for the event. I do not say all I wish, and which, my dearest, beloved Emma, read that, whoever opens this letter, and for what I care, publish it to the world. Your fertile imagination can readily fancy, I would say, but this I can say with great truth, that I am for ever yours. Letter 47. Victory, May the 27th, 1804. My dearest Emma, yesterday I took Charles Connor on board from the Phoebe to try what we can do with him. At present, poor fellow, he has got a very bad eye, and I almost fear that he will be blind of it, owing to an olive stone striking his eye. But the surgeon of the Victory, who is by far the most able medical man I have ever seen, and equally so as a surgeon, says that if it can be saved, he will do it. The other complaint, in his head, is but little more, I think, than it was when he first came to Deal, a kind of silly laugh when spoken to. He always complains of a pain in the back part of his head, but when that is gone, I do not perceive but that he is as wise as many of his neighbours. You may rely, my dear Emma, that nothing shall be wanting, on my part, to render him every service. Capel, although I am sure very kind to younkers, I do not think has the knack of keeping them in high discipline. He lets them be their own master too much. I paid Charles' account yesterday. Since he has been in the Phoebe, £155 14 s. However, he must now turn over a new leaf, and I sincerely hope, poor fellow, that he will yet do well. I wrote you on the 22nd through Rosas, in Spain, and I shall write in a few days by Barcelona. This goes by Gibraltar. I have wrote Admiral Lutwidge. Mrs. Lutwidge must wait, for I cannot get through all my numerous letters, for whoever writes, although upon their own affairs, are offended if they are not answered. I have not seen young Bailey. I suppose he is in the Leviathan. By the parcel I see he is in the Canopus, and I can, at present, be of no use to him. May the 30th. Charles is very much recovered. I write you this day by Barcelona. Your dear Phiz, but not the least like you, on the cup is safe, but I would not use it for the world, for if it was broke, it would distress me very much. Your letters, by Swift, I shall never get back. The French consul at Barcelona is bragging that he has 3 pictures of you from the Swift. I do not believe him, but what if he had 100? Your resemblance is so deeply engraved in my heart that there it can never be effaced, and, who knows, some day I may have the happiness of having a living picture of you. Old Mother L is a damned bee, but I do not understand what you mean, or what plan. I am not surprised at my friend Kingsmill admiring you, and forgetting Mary. He loves variety, and handsome women. You touch upon the old Duke, but I am dull of comprehension. Believing you all my own, I cannot imagine any one else to offer in any way. We have enough, with prudence, and without it we should soon be beggars if we had 5 times as much. I see Lord Stafford is going to oppose Mr. Addington. The present ministry cannot stand. I wish Mr. Addington had given you the pension. Pitt and hard-hearted Grenville never will. What a fortune the death of Lord Camelford gives him! Everything you tell me about my dear Horatia charms me. I think I see her, hear her, and admire her, but she is like her dear, dear mother. I am sorry if your account of George Martin's wife is correct. He deserved a better fate, but he is like Foley, gave up a great deal to marry the relation of a great man, although, in fact, she is no relation to the Duke of Portland. I wish I could but be at dear Merton, to assist in making the alterations. I think I should have persuaded you to have kept the pike, and a clear stream, and to have put all the carp, tench, and fish who muddy the water into the pond, but, as you like, I am content. Only take care that my darling does not fall in, and get drowned. I begged you to get the little netting along the edge, and particularly on the bridges. I admire the seal, and God bless you also. Amen. The boy South is on board another ship, learning to be a musician. He will return soon, when he shall have the letter and money. I hope he will deserve it, but he has been a very bad boy. But good floggings, I hope, will save him from the gallows. Mr. Falcon is a clever man. He would not have made such a blunder as our friend Drake and Spencer Smith. I hear the last is coming via Trieste to Malta. Perhaps he wants to get to Constantinople, and if the Spencers get in, the Smiths will get anything. Mr. Elliot, I hear, is a candidate for it. He complains of the expense of Naples, I hear, and that he cannot make both ends meet, although he sees no company. The histories of the Queen are beyond whatever I have heard from Sir William. Prince Leopold's establishment is all French. The Queen's favourite, Lieutenant Colonel Sinclair, was a subaltern, Latour, the captain in the navy, and another. However, I never touch on these matters, for I care not how she amuses herself. It will be the upset of Acton, or rather, he will not, I am told, stay. The King is angry with her. His love is long gone by. I have only one word more. Do not believe a syllable the newspapers say, or what you hear. Mankind seems fond of telling lies. Remember me kindly to Mrs. Cadogan and all our mutual friends, and be assured I am for ever, my dearest Emma, your most faithful and affectionate Nelson and Brontë. George Campbell desires me always to present his best respects, and make mine to good Mr. Younger. What can I write him? I am sure he must have great pleasure in attending you, and when you see Sir William Scott, make my best regards acceptable to him. There is no man I have a higher opinion of, both as a public and private character. You will long ago have had my letter, with one to Davison, desiring he will pay for the alterations at Merton. I shall send you a letter for the £100 a month, to the bank. Letter 48. Victory, June the 6th, 1804. Since I wrote you, my dearest Emma, on the 30th and 31st of May, nothing new has happened, except our hearing the feu de joie at Toulon for the declaration of Emperor. What a capricious nation those French must be! However, I think it must, in any way, be advantageous to England. There ends, for a century, all republics. By vessels from Marseilles, the French think it will be a peace, and they say that several of their merchant ships are fitting out. I earnestly pray that it may be so, and that we may have a few years of rest. I rather believe my antagonist at Toulon begins to be angry with me. At least, I am trying to make him so, and then he may come out and beat me, as he said he did off Boulogne. He is the admiral that went to Naples in December 1792, La Touche-Treville, who landed the Grenadiers. I owe him something for that. I am better, my dear Emma, than I have been, and shall get through the summer very well, and I have the pleasure to tell you that Charles is very much recovered. There is no more the matter with his intellects than with mine. Quite the contrary, he is very quick. Mr. Scott, who has overlooked all his things, says his clothes, etc., are in the highest order he has ever seen. I shall place him in the Niger, with Captain Hillier when he joins, but all our ships are so full that it is very difficult to get a berth for any one in any ship. Would you conceive it possible? But it is now from April the 2nd since I heard direct from Ball. The average time for a frigate to go and return is from 6 to 7 weeks. From you I had letters April the 5th, and the papers to April the 8th, received May the 10th with a convoy. This goes through friend Gaynor. Sir William Bolton joined last night, and received his letters, announcing his being called Papa. He is got a very fine young man and good officer. Lord St. Vincent has desired he may have the First Admiralty vacancy for post, but nobody will die, or go home. Apropos, I believe you should buy a piece of plate, value £50, for our goddaughter of Lady Bolton, and something of £20 or £30 value for Colonel Suckling's. But, my Emma, you are not to pay for them. Let it rest for me, or, if the amount is sent me, I will order payment. Remember me most kindly to Horatia, good Mrs. Cadogan, Charlotte, Miss Connor, and all our friends at dear Merton, where, from my soul, I wish I was this moment. Then, I sincerely hope, we should have no cause for sorrow. You will say what is right to Mr. Perry, Newton, Patterson, Mr. Lancaster, etc. You know all these matters. God in heaven bless and preserve you for ever. Praise, ever, yours most faithfully. Letter 49. Victory, June the 10th, 1804. My dearest Emma, I wrote to you on the 6th, via Rosas. This goes by Barcelona, to which place I am sending Sir William Bolton to fetch Dr. Scott, who is gone there, poor fellow, for the benefit of his health. I have just had very melancholy letters from the King and Queen of Naples, on account of General Acton's going to Sicily. The insolence of Bonaparte was not to be parried without a war, for which they are unable, if unassisted. I have letters from Acton, May the 28th, on board the Archimedes, just going into Palermo. He will probably return to Naples, unless new events arise, and that may be, for a minister, once out, may find some difficulty in renewing his post. He has acted with great and becoming spirit. I am better, but I have been very unwell. It blows here as much as ever. Yesterday was a little hurricane of wind. I dare say Prince Castelcicala knows it by express. If not, you may tell him, with my best respects. He and every one else may be sure of my attachment to those good sovereigns. By this route, I do not choose to say more on this subject. With my kindest regards to Horatia, and your good mother, Charlotte, Miss C., and all our friends, believe me, my dear Emma, for ever your most faithful and affectionate. I fear Sardinia will be invaded from Corsica before you get this letter. I have not small ships to send there, or anywhere else, not in the proportion of 1 to 5. You may communicate this to Mr. Addington, if you think that he does not know it, but to no one else, except Castelcicala, of what relates to Naples. I have very flattering letters from the Grand Vizier in the name of the Sultan, and from Kadir, now Capitan Pasha. Letter 50. Victory, July the 1st, 1804. Although I wrote you, my dearest Emma, a letter by Rosas of June the 27th, not yet gone, the weather being so very bad that ships cannot get across the Gulf of Lions, yet I will not miss the opportunity of writing by Gibraltar. You must not, my Emma, think of hearing from me by way of Malta. It takes as long to send a letter to Malta as to England. The Monmouth, which you complain of not hearing by, I know nothing of her movements for some months before. The ships from Malta, with the convoys, pick up our letters at Gibraltar. Therefore, do not hurt my feelings by telling me that I neglect any opportunity of writing. Your letters of April the 13th, 22nd, and May the 13th, through Mr. Falconet, came safe a few days ago. Mr. Falconet is the French banker, and he dare not buy a little macaroni for me, or let an Englishman into his house. Gibbs is still at Palermo. I fancy he will make a good thing of my estate. However, I wish it was settled. He wrote me a short time since that he wished I would give him a hint, but without noticing that it came from him, that I thought Mrs. Grafer and her child had better go to England, on pretence of educating her daughter, etc. But I would have nothing to do with any such recommendation. It would end in her coming to me, in England, and saying that she could not live upon what she had, and that I advised her to come to England, or she would not have thought of it. In short, Gibbs wants to remove her. He is afraid of his pocket, I fancy, and the daughter is, I fancy, now in some seminary at Palermo, at Gibbs' expense. I wrote in word fully I would advise no such thing. She was to form her own judgment. What our friends are after at Naples, they best know. The poor king is miserable at the loss of Acton. The Queen writes me about honest Acton, etc., etc., and I hear that she has been the cause of ousting him, and they say, her enemies, that her conduct is all French. That I do not believe, although she is likely to be the dupe of French émigrés, who always beset her. I doubt much, my dear Emma, even her constancy of real friendship to you, although in my letter to Acton, which Mr. Elliot says he read to her, I mentioned the obligations she was under to you, etc., etc., in very strong terms. What could the name of the minister signify? It was the letter which was wanted to the Prime Minister. But never mind, with prudence, we shall do very well. I have wrote to Davison by land, who I am very sorry for, but he never would take a friend's caution, and he has been severely bit. Your accounts of Merton delight me, and you will long ago have known that I have directed the bills for the alterations to be paid. I never could have intended to have taken it from the £100 a month. You will not hear of me making prize money. I have not paid my expenses these last 9 months. I shall expect to eat my Christmas dinner at Merton, unless those events happen which I can neither foresee nor prevent. I am not well, and must have rest for a few months, even should the country want me, which very likely they will not. News I can have none. April the 9th, Leviathan sailed, so Government don't care much for us. Kiss my dear Horatia for me. I hope you will have her at Merton, and believe me, my dear Emma, that I am for ever, as ever, your attached, faithful, and affectionate Nelson and Brontë. End of Section 2. Recording by Adrian Wheel. Section 3 of The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Adrian Wheel. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Section 3, Letters 51 to 55. Letter 51. Victory, August the 12th, 1804. Although, my dearest Emma, from the length of time my other letters have been getting to you, I cannot expect that this will share a better fate, yet, as the Childers is going to Rosas, to get us some news from Paris, which is the only way I know of what is passing in England, I take my chance of the post. But I expect the Kent will be in England before this letter, and by which ship I write to the Admiralty relative to my health. Therefore, I shall only say that I hope a little of your good nursing, with ass's milk, will set me up for another campaign, should the Admiralty wish me to return in the spring for another year. But, I own, I think we shall have peace. The ambuscade arrived this day fortnight, with our victuallers, etc., and very acceptable they were. By her I received your letters of May the 14th, 22nd, and 30th, via Lisbon, and of April the 9th, 15th, 18th, May the 10th, 18th, 29th, June the 1st and 5th, through, I suppose the Admiralty. The box you mention is not arrived, nor have I a scrap of a pen from Davison. The weather in the Mediterranean seems much altered. In July, 17 days the fleet was in a gale of wind. I have often wrote to Davison to pay for all the improvements at Merton. The new building, the chamber over the dining room, you must consider. The stair window we settled was not to be stopped up. The underground passage will, I hope, be made, but I shall, please God, soon see it all. I have wrote you, my dear Emma, about Horatio, but by the Kent I shall write fully. May God bless you, my dearest, best beloved Emma, and believe me ever your most faithful and affectionate. Kind love and regards to Mrs. Cadogan and all friends. God bless you, again and again. Letter 52. Victory, August the 20th, 1804. My dearest Emma, the Kent left us 3 days ago, and as the wind has been perfectly fair since her departure, I think she will have a very quick passage, and arrive long before this letter. But as a ship is going to Rosas, I will not omit the opportunity of writing through Spain. As you say, the letters all arrive safe. We have nothing but gales of wind, and I have had for 2 days fires in the cabin to keep out the very damp air. I still hope that by the time of my arrival in England we shall have peace. God send it. I have not yet received your muff. I think, probably, I shall bring it with me. I hope Davison has done the needful in paying for the alterations at Merton. If not, it is now too late, and we will fix a complete plan and execute it next summer. I shall be clear of debt, and what I have will be my own. God bless you. Amen. Amen. George Eliot goes to Malta for a convoy to England this day. If you ever see Lord Minto, say so. Letter 53. Victory, August the 31st, 1804, say 30th at evening. Therefore I wrote, in fact, this day, through Spain. My dearest Emma, yesterday I wrote to you through Spain. This goes by Naples. Mr. Falconet, I think, will send it, although I am sure he feels great fear from the French minister for having anything to do with us. Mr. Greville is a shabby fellow. It never could have been the intention of Sir William, but that you should have had £700 a year neat money, for when he made the will, the income tax was double to what it is at present, and the estate which it is paid from is increasing every year in value. It may be law, but it is not just, nor in equity would, I believe, be considered as the will and intention of Sir William. Never mind. Thank God you do not want of his kindness, nor will he give you justice. I may fairly say all this, because my actions are different, even to a person who has treated me so ill. As to so-and-so, I know the full extent of the obligation I owe him, and he may be useful to me again, but I can never forget his unkindness to you. But, I guess, many reasons influenced his conduct, in bragging of his riches, and my honourable poverty. But, as I have often said, and with honest pride, what I have is my own. It never cost the widow a tear, or the nation a farthing. I got what I have with my pure blood from the enemies of my country. Our house, my own Emma, is built upon a solid foundation, and will last to us when his house and lands may belong to others than his children. I would not have believed it from any one but you, but if I ever go abroad again, matters shall be settled very differently. I am working hard with Gibbs about Bronté, but the calls upon me are very heavy. Next September I shall be clear. I mean September 1805. I have wrote to both Acton and the Queen about you. I do not think she likes Mr. Elliot, and therefore I wish she had never shown him my letters about you. We also know that he has a card of his own to play. Dr. Scott, who is a good man, although, poor fellow, very often wrong in the head, is going with Staines in the Chameleon, just to take a peep at Naples and Palermo. I have introduced him to Acton, who is very civil to everybody from me. The Admiralty proceedings towards me you will know much sooner than I shall. I hope they will do the thing handsomely, and allow of my return in the spring, but I do not expect it. I am very uneasy at your and Horatio being on the coast, for you cannot move if the French make the attempt, which I am told they have done, and been repulsed. Pray God it may be true. I shall rejoice to hear you and Horatio are safe at Merton, and happy shall I be the day I join you. Ganam Justum. Gaetano is very grateful for your remembrance of him. Mr. Chevalier is an excellent servant. William says he has wrote twice. I suppose he thinks that enough. This is written within 3 miles of the fleet in Toulon, who are looking very tempting. Kind regards to Mrs. Cadogan, Charlotte, etc., and compliments to all our joint friends, for they are no friends of mine who are not friends to Emma. God bless you, again and again. Captain Hardy has not been very well, and I fancy Admiral Wyrie will be sorry to see England, especially since he has been promoted. He expects his flag may get up. God bless you, my dearest Emma, and be assured I am ever most faithfully yours. Letter 54. Victory, September the 29th, 1804. This day, my dearest Emma, which gave me birth, I consider as more fortunate than common days, as by my coming into this world it has brought me so intimately acquainted with you, who my soul holds most dear. I well know that you will keep it, and have my dear Horatio to drink my health. 46 years of toil and trouble! How few more the common lot of mankind leads us to expect, and therefore it is almost time to think of spending the few last years in peace and quietness. By this time, I should think, either my successor is named, or permission is granted me to come home, and if so, you will not long receive this letter before I make my appearance, which will make us, I am sure, both truly happy. We have had nothing for this fortnight but gales of easterly winds and heavy rains. Not a vessel of any kind or sort joined the fleet. I was in hope Dr. Scott would have returned from Naples, and that I could have told you something comfortable for you from that quarter, and it is now 7 weeks since we heard from Malta. Therefore I know nothing of what is passing in the world. I would not have you, my dear Emma, allow the work of brick and mortar to go on in the winter months. It can all be finished next summer, when I hope we shall have peace, or such an universal war as will upset that vagabond Bonaparte. I have been tolerable well till this last bad weather, which has given me pains in my breast. But never mind, all will be well when I get to Merton. Admiral Campbell, who is on board, desires to be remembered to you. He does not like much to stay here after my departure. Indeed, we all draw so well together in the fleet, that I flatter myself the sorrow for my departure will be pretty general. Admiral Murray will be glad to get home. Hardy is as good as ever, and Mr. Secretary Scott is an excellent man. God bless you, my dearest Emma, and be assured I am ever your most faithful and affectionate N. and B. Kiss dear Horatio. I hope she is at Merton, fixed. Letter 55. Victory, October the 7th, 1804, 2 p.m. I wrote you, my dearest Emma, this morning, by way of Lisbon, but a boat which is going to Torbay, having brought out a cargo of potatoes, will, I think, get home before the Lisbon packet. I shall only say, Gazelle, Ganam, Justum, and that I love you beyond all the world. This may be read by French, Dutch, Spanish, or Englishman, for it comes from the heart of, my Emma, your faithful and affectionate Nelson and Bronté. I think the gentry will soon come out. I cannot say more by such a conveyance. End of section 3. Recording by Adrian Wheel. Section 4 of the Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Adrian Wheel. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Section 4. Letters 56 to 60. Letter 56. Victory, October the 13th, 1804. My dearest Emma, the dreadful effects of the yellow fever at Gibraltar and many parts of Spain will naturally give you much uneasiness, till you hear that, thank God, we are entirely free from it, and in the most perfect health, not one man being ill in the fleet. The cold weather will, I hope, cure the disorder. Whilst I am writing this letter, a cutter is arrived from England, with strong indications of a Spanish war. I hope from my heart that it will not prove one, but However that is, my die is cast, and long before this time I expect another admiral is far on his way to supersede me. Lord Keith, I think, a very likely man. I should, for your sake, and for many of our friends, have liked an odd £100,000, but never mind. If they give me the choice of staying a few months longer, it will be very handsome, and for the sake of others, we would give up, my dear Emma, very much of our own felicity. If they do not, we shall be happy with each other, and with dear Horatio. The cutter returns with my answers directly. Therefore, my own Emma, you must only fancy all my thoughts and feelings towards you. They are everything which a fond heart can fancy. I have not a moment. I am writing and signing orders, whilst I am writing to my own Emma. My life, my soul, God in heaven bless you. Your letter is September the 16th. Your last is August the 27th. I have not made myself understood about Mrs. Bolton's money. You give away too much. Kiss our dear Horatia 1,000 times for your own faithful Nelson. I send £200. Keep it for your own pocket money. You must tell Davison and Hazelwood that I cannot answer their letters. Linton cannot be fixed, but you will know whether I come home or stay from Mr. Marsden. God bless you. Tell my brother that I have made Mr. Younger a lieutenant into the Seahorse frigate, Captain Boyle. Once more, God bless my dearest Emma. Write your name on the back of the bill, if you send any person for the money. I have scrawled 3 lines to Davison, that he should not think I neglected him in his confinement. I have received the enclosed from Allen. Can we assist the poor foolish man with a character? Letter 57. Victory, November the 23rd, 1804. As all our communication with Spain is at an end, I can now only expect to hear from my own dear Emma by the very slow mode of Admiralty vessels, and it is now more than 2 months since the John Bull sailed. I much fear something has been taken, for they never would, I am sure, have kept me so long in the dark. However, by management, and a portion of good luck, I got the account from Madrid in much shorter space of time than I could have hoped for, and I have set the whole Mediterranean to work, and think the fleet cannot fail of being successful, and if I had had spare troops at Malta at my disposal, Minorca would at this moment have had English colours flying. This letter, my dearest beloved Emma, goes, although in Mr. Marsden's letter, such a roundabout way that I cannot say all that my heart wishes. Imagine everything which is kind and affectionate, and you will come near the mark. Where is my successor? I am not a little surprised at his not arriving. A Spanish war, I thought, would have hastened him. Ministers could not have thought that I wanted to fly the service. My whole life has proved the contrary, and if they refuse me now, I shall most certainly leave this country in March or April, for a few months' rest I must have very soon. If I am in my grave, what are the mines of Peru to me? But, to say the truth, I have no idea of killing myself. I may, with care, live yet to do good service to the state. My cough is very bad, and my side, where I was struck on the 14th of February, is very much swelled, at times a lump as large as my fist, brought on occasionally by violent coughing, but I hope and believe my lungs are yet safe. Sir William Bolton is just arrived from Malta. I am preparing to send him a cruise, where he will have the best chance I can give him of making £10,000. He is a very attentive, good young man. I have not heard from Naples this age. I have, in fact, no small craft to send for news. If I am soon to go home, I shall be with you before this letter. May God bless you. Thomson desires to be most kindly remembered to his dear wife and children. He is most sincerely attached to them, and wishes to save what he can for their benefit. As our means of communicating are cut off, I have only to beg that you will not believe the idle rumours of battles, etc., etc., etc. May heavens bless you. Praise fervently, my dear Emma, ever your most faithful and affectionate, Nelson and Bronté. Letter 58. Victory, March the 9th, 1805. I do assure you, my dearest Emma, that nothing can be more miserable or unhappy than your poor Nelson. From the 19th of February have we been beating from Malta to off Palma, where I am now anchored, the wind and sea being so very contrary and bad. But I cannot help myself, and no one in the fleet can feel what I do. And to mend my fate, yesterday Captain Layman arrived, to my great surprise, not in his brig, but in a Spanish cartel, he having been wrecked off Cadiz, and lost all the dispatches and letters. You will conceive my disappointment. It is now from November the 2nd that I have had a line from England. Captain Layman says he is sure the letters are sunk, never to rise again; but as they were not thrown overboard until the vessel struck the rock, I have much fear they may have fallen into the hands of the Dons. My reports from off Toulon state the French fleet is still in port, but I shall ever be uneasy at not having fallen in with them. I know, my dear Emma, that it is vain to repine, but my feelings are alive to meeting those fellows, after near 2 years' hard service. What a time! I could not have thought it possible that I should have been so long absent, unwell and uncomfortable in many respects. However, when I calculate upon the French fleet's not coming to sea for this summer, I shall certainly go for dear England, and 1,000 times dearer Merton. May heavens bless you, my own Emma. I cannot think where Sir William Bolton is got to. He ought to have joined me before this time. I send you a trifle for a birthday's gift. I would to God I could give you more, but I have it not. I get no prize money worth naming, but if I have the good fortune to meet the French fleet, I hope they will make me amends for all my anxiety, which has been and is indescribable. How is my dear Horatio? I hope you have her under your guardian wing at Merton. May God bless her. Captain Layman is now upon his trial. I hope he will come clear, with honour. I fear it was too great confidence in his own judgment that got him into the scrape, but it was impossible that any person living could have exerted himself more when in a most trying and difficult situation. March the 10th. Poor Captain L. has been censured by the court, but I have my own opinion. I sincerely pity him, and have wrote to Lord Melville and Sir Evan Nepean to try what can be done. Altogether, I am much unhinged. To-morrow, if the wind lasts, I shall be off Toulon. Sir William Bolton is safe. I heard of him this morning. I hear that a ship is coming out for him, but as this is only rumour, I cannot keep him from this opportunity of being made post, and, I dare say, he will cause by his delay such a tumble that Lewis's son, who I have appointed to the Childers, will lose his promotion, and then Sir Billy will be wished at the devil. But I have done with this subject. The whole history has hurt me. Hardy has talked enough to him to rouse his lethargic disposition. I have been much hurt at the loss of poor Mr. Girdlestone. He was a good man, but there will be an end of us all. What has Charles Connor been about? His is a curious letter. If he does not drink, he will do very well. Captain Hillier has been very good to him. Colonel Suckling, I find, has sent his son to the Mediterranean, taking him from the Narcissus, where I had been at so much pains to place him. I know not where to find a frigate to place him. He never will be so well and properly situated again. I am more plagued with other people's business, or rather nonsense, than with my own concerns. With some difficulty, I have got Suckling placed in the ambuscade, with Captain Durban, who came on board at the moment I was writing. March the 31st. The history of Suckling will never be done. I have this moment got from him your letter, and one from his father. I shall say nothing to him. I don't blame the child, but those who took him out of the most desirable situation in the navy. He never will get into such another advantageous ship, but his father is a fool, and so, my dear Emma, that ends. The box which you sent me in May 1804 is just arrived in the Diligent storeship. I have sent the arms to Palermo, to Gibbs. The clothes are very acceptable. I will give you a kiss for sending them. God bless you. Amen. April the 1st. I am not surprised that we should both think the same about the kitchen, and if I can afford it, I should like it to be done. But, by the fatal example of poor Mr. Hamilton, and many others, we must take care not to get into debt, for then we can neither help any of our relations, and must be for ever in misery. But of this we will talk more, when we walk upon the poop at Merton. Do you ever see Admiral and Mrs. Lutwidge? You will not forget me when you do. To Mrs. Cadogan, say everything that is kind, and to all our other friends, and be assured I am for ever and ever yours and only yours, Nelson and Brontë. As I know that all the Mediterranean letters are cut and smoked, and perhaps read, I do not send you a little letter in this, but your utmost stretch of fancy cannot imagine more than I feel towards my own dear Emma. God bless you. Amen. Letter 59. Victory, off Plymouth, September the 17th, 1805. 9 o'clock in the morning, blowing fresh at west-south-west, dead foul wind. I sent my own dearest Emma a letter for you last night in a Torbay boat, and gave the man a guinea to put it in the post-office. We have had a nasty blowing night, and it looks very dirty. I am now signalising the ships at Plymouth to join me, but I rather doubt their ability to get to sea. However, I have got clear of Portland, and have Cawson Bay and Torbay under the lee. I entreat, my dear Emma, that you will cheer up, and we will look forward to many, many happy years, and be surrounded by our children's children. God Almighty can, when he pleases, remove the impediment. My heart and soul is with you and Horatio. I got this line ready, in case a boat should get alongside, for ever, ever, I am yours most devotedly, Nelson and Brontë. Mr. Rose said he would write to Mr. Bolton, if I was sailed, but I forgot to give him the direction, but I will send it to-day. I think I shall succeed very soon, if not at this moment. Wednesday, September the 18th, off the Lizard. I had no opportunity of sending you a letter yesterday, nor do I see any prospect at present. The Ajax and Thunderer are joining, but it is nearly calm, with a swell from the westward. Perseverance has got us this far, and the same will, I dare say, get us on. Thomas seems to do very well, and content. Tell Mr. Lancaster that I have no doubt that his son will do very well. God bless you, my own Emma. I am giving my letters to Blackwood, to put on board the first vessel he meets going to England or Ireland. Once more, heavens bless you, ever for ever, your Nelson and Brontë. Letter 60. Victory, October the 1st, 1805. My dearest Emma, it is a relief to me to take up the pen and write you a line, for I have had, about 4 o'clock this morning, one of my dreadful spasms, which has almost enervated me. It is very odd, I was hardly ever better than yesterday. Freemantle stayed with me till 8 o'clock, and I slept uncommonly well, but was awoke with this disorder. My opinion of its effect, some wonder, has never altered. However, it is entirely gone off, and I am only quite weak. The good people of England will not believe that rest of body and mind is necessary for me. But, perhaps, this spasm may not come again these 6 months. I had been writing 7 hours yesterday. Perhaps that had some hand in bringing it upon me. I joined the fleet late on the evening of the 28th of September, but could not communicate with them until the next morning. I believe my arrival was most welcome, not only to the commander of the fleet, but also to every individual in it; and when I came to explain to them the Nelson touch, it was like an electric shock. Some shed tears, all approved. It was new, it was singular, it was simple, and from admirals downwards it was repeated. It must succeed, if ever they will allow us to get at them. You are, my lord, surrounded by friends whom you inspire with confidence. Some may be Judases, but the majority are certainly much pleased with my commanding them. End of Section 4. Recording by Adrian Wheel. Section 5 of the Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Adrian Wheel. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Section 5. Letters from Lord Nelson to Horatio Nelson and Charlotte Nelson. Letter from Lord Nelson to Miss Horatia Nelson Thompson. Victory, April the 13th, 1804. My dear Horatio, I send you 12 books of Spanish dresses, which you will let your guardian angel, Lady Hamilton, keep for you when you are tired of looking at them. I am very glad to hear that you are perfectly recovered, and that you are a very good child. I beg, my dear Horatio, that you will always continue so, which will be a great comfort to your most affectionate Nelson and Bronté. Letter from Lord Nelson to Miss Charlotte Nelson. Victory, April the 19th, 1804. My dear Charlotte, I thank you very much for your kind letters of January the 3rd and 4th, and I feel truly sensible of your kind regard for that dear little orphan, Horatio. Although her parents are lost, yet she is not without a fortune, and I shall cherish her to the last moment of my life, and curse them who curse her, and heaven bless them who bless her. Dear innocent, she can have injured no one. I am glad to hear that she is attached to you, and if she takes after her parents, so she will, to those who are kind to her. I am ever, dear Charlotte, your affectionate uncle, Nelson and Bronté. End of section 5.
Section 6 of the Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Anne Boulay. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Letters from Alexander Davison, Esquire, to Lady Hamilton. Letter 1, 1804. My dear Madam, I have, equally with yourself, felt extremely uneasy all night, thinking on the letter, which is a very serious one; and until we receive our next dispatches, I shall still feel every day more and more anxious. I rely on that kind Providence, which has hitherto sheltered him under every danger, upon the occasion. He was on the eve of engaging, for protection and preservation. It is, indeed, an anxious moment. I have long thought, a plan was in agitation regarding the Toulon fleet being given up, but, whether it was in contemplation at the period the last letter was written, I know not. I am rather disposed to think otherwise. The next packet will explain the whole, and, I trust, will relieve our minds of that burden, hardly supportable at the present. I shall this evening go quietly into the country, and return to town about noon to-morrow, as I require air and a little relaxation, for I am actually overpowered with business. Yours most truly, Alexander Davison. Thursday morning. Letter 2, 1804. My dear Madam, yesterday I wrote to you just in time to save the post, but whether that letter or even this reach you, I have my doubts. If they do not, you only have yourself to blame, for I cannot, for the soul of me, make out the name of the place. You have been in such a hurry when writing it that it really is not legible, and I do not sufficiently know Norfolk to guess at it. I did yesterday, as I shall this, imitate your writing, leaving it to the post-office gentleman to find it out. I acquainted you that I would take care to obey your wishes, and hold back your check on Coutts and Company, till such time as it would be convenient to yourself, and you tell me to send it for payment. Your mind may be perfectly at ease on that score, as, indeed, it may in everything in which you have to do with me, though we do, now and then, differ a little in trifles, but not in essentials, having only one object in mind, that of the comforts and ultimate happiness of our dear, your beloved Nelson, for whom, what would you or I not do? What a world of matter is now in agitation! Everything is big with events, and soon, very soon, I hope to see, what I have long desired, and anxiously been waiting for, an event to contribute to the glory, the independency of our Nelson. I still hope, ere Christmas, to see him. That hope founded on the darling expectation of his squadron falling in with a rich Spanish flotilla. I think, too, that the French fleet will now come out. I have written to our dear friend every information I have been able to collect, and have sent him a continuation of all the newspapers. It affords me particular pleasure to hear you feel so happy in Norfolk. How is it possible it can be otherwise? Seated as you are, in the midst of the friends of your best friend, enjoying every kindness and attention in their power to show to the favourite of their brother. I shall be very much rejoiced, when you come back, to talk over very interesting objects which our dear friend will now have to pursue. My best respects to your fireside, and believe me, most sincerely yours, Alexander Davison. Letter 3. Saturday, 22nd of September, 1804. My dear Madam, ever obedient to your lawful commands, I have implicitly obeyed your orders, in the purchase, this morning, of Messrs. Branscombe and Company, 4-quarter lottery tickets, number 593, 10,376, 14,381, and 20,457. Each, I hope, will come up prize, and be entitled to receive, at least, on the whole, £20,000. I paid £18 8s. For them, and have written upon the back of each, Property of Lord Nelson, 22nd of September, 1804, A.D. When I have the pleasure of seeing you, I shall deliver the trust over to you, to receive the bespoken said sum of £20,000. What a glorious receipt will it be! I am glad you received my letters, though I could not make out the name of the place. The post office runners are expert at it. What do you say to a Spanish war? I think now the breeze begins to freshen, and that the flames, at last, will succeed. I sent off last night a very long epistle to our dear Nelson. I am truly distressed at his not receiving my letters, though I can pretty well guess how to account for it, and in whose hands they were detained. Experience teaches us how better to guard against similar misfortunes, and, in future, I shall be cautious to whom I give my letters. So that I know the hero of heroes is well, I care the less about letters, knowing that writing, delivering, and receiving them, will not, either in him or me, make the least alteration, or lessen our attachment or affection. I am pleased to see how happy you are in Norfolk. I wish you may not find it so fascinating that the arrival of Lord Nelson at Merton would not induce you to quit the country. I beg you will make my best respects acceptable to every friend, real, of that invaluable man, Lord Nelson. Yours most truly, Alexander Davison. End of section 6. Section 7 of the Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Anne Boulay. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Letter from Lady Hamilton to Alexander Davison, Esquire, enclosing her ladyship's verses on Lord Nelson. Letter of Lady Hamilton, etc. Clarges Street, 26th of January, 1805. I have been very ill, my dear sir, and am in bed with a cold, very bad cold indeed. But the moment I am better, I will call on you. I am invited to dine with Mr. Hasselwood to-morrow, but I fear I shall not be able to go. I am very anxious about letters, but Admiral Campbell has told me, he thinks my dear Lord will soon be at home. God grant! For, I think, he might remove that stumbling block, Sir John O. Devil take him! That Polyphemus should have been Nelson's, but he is rich in great and noble deeds, which the other, poor devil, is not. So let dirty wretches get pelf, to comfort them. Victory belongs to Nelson, not but what I think money necessary for comforts, and I hope yours, and my Nelson will get a little for all Master O. I write from bed, and you will see I do, by my scrawl. I send you some of my bad verses on my soul's idol. God bless you! Remember, you will soon be free, and let that cheer you, that you will come out with even more friends than ever. I can only say, I am your ever obliged and grateful Emma Hamilton. I long to see and know Nepean. Why will you not ask me to dine with him and family? Yes, A.D. Emma to Nelson. I think I have not lost my heart, since I, with truth, can swear, at every moment of my life I feel my Nelson there. If, from thine Emma's breast, her heart were stolen or flown away, where should she my Nelson's love record each happy day? If, from thine Emma's breast, her heart were stolen or flown away, where should she engrave my love each tender word you say? Where should Emma treasure up her Nelson's smiles and sighs? Where mark with joy each secret look of love from Nelson's eyes? Then do not rob me of my heart, unless you first forsake it, and then, so wretched would it be, despair alone will take it. End of section 7. Section 8 of the Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Anne Boulay. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Letter from Lady Hamilton to the Right Honourable Henry Addington, now Viscount Sidmouth. Letter of Lady Hamilton, etc. April 13th, 1803. Sir, may I trouble you, and but for a moment, in consequence of my irreparable loss, my ever-honoured husband, Sir William Hamilton, being no more. I cannot avoid it. I am forced to petition for a portion of his pension, such a portion as, in your wisdom and noble nature, may be approved, and so represented to our most gracious sovereign, as being right. For, sir, I am most sadly bereaved. I am now in circumstances far below those in which the goodness of my dear Sir William allowed me to move for so many years, and below those becoming the relic of such a public minister, who was proved so very long, no less than 36 years, and, all his life, honoured so very much by the constant friendly kindness of the king and queen themselves. And may I mention, what is well known to the then administration at home, how I, too, strove to do all I could towards the service of our king and country. The fleet itself, I can truly say, could not have got into Sicily, but for what I was happily able to do with the Queen of Naples, and through her secret instructions so obtained, on which depended the refitting of the fleet in Sicily, and with that, all which followed so gloriously at the Nile. These few words, though seemingly much at large, may not be extravagant at all. They are indeed true. I wish them to be heard, only as they can be proved, and being proved, may I hope for what I have now desired? I am, sir, with respect more than I can well utter, your obedient servant, Emma Hamilton. End of section 8.
Section number 9 of the Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by John Thomas Kuzmarski. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Letters from Sir William Hamilton to Lady Hamilton, Letters 1 to 9. 1. Persano, Wednesday, January 4th, 1792. We arrived here yesterday in little more than 5 hours, and had nearly began with a disagreeable accident, for the king's horse took fright at the guard, and his majesty and horse were as near down as possible. However, all ended well, and he was as gay as possible yesterday. Our first chase has not succeeded, though there were 2 wolves and many wild boars in the Maina, but the king would direct how we should beat the wood, and began at the wrong end, by which the wolves and boars escaped, and we remained without shooting power. However, 10 or 12 boars have been killed, some how or other, and some large ones. The king's face is very long at this moment, but I dare say tomorrow's good sport will shorten it again. I was sorry, my dear M., to leave you in affliction. You must harden yourself to such little misfortunes as a temporary parting, but I cannot blame you for having a good and tender heart. Believe me, you are in thorough possession of all mine, though I will allow it to be rather tough. Let us study to make one another as comfortable as we can, and banish sorrow till tomorrow, and so on every day. You are wise enough to see the line it is proper for you to take, and have hitherto followed it most rigorously, and I assure you that I have not the least doubt of your continuing in it. Amuse yourself as well as you can, as I am doing, whilst we are separate, and the best news you can give me is, that you are well and happy. My cold is already better for having passed the whole day in the open air, and without human seccatura. Adieu, my dear, dear Emma. I am, with my love to your good mother, yours ever and faithfully, W.H. 2. Persano, Thursday, January 5th, 1792. We got home early, and I have not yet received your daily advertiser. No sport again! In the midst of such a quantity of game, they have contrived to carry him far off, where there is none. He has no other comfort to-day than having killed a wild cat, and his face is a yard long. However, his Majesty has vowed vengeance on the boars tomorrow, and will go according to his own fancy, and I dare say there will be a terrible slaughter. The last day we are to keep all we kill, and I suppose it will be night before we get home. Yesterday the courier brought the order of St. Stefano from the Emperor for the Prince Augsburg, and the King was desired to invest him with it. As soon as the King received it, he ran into the Prince's room, whom he found in his shirt, and without his breeches, and in that condition was he decorated with the star and ribbon by his Majesty, who has wrote the whole circumstance to the Emperor. Leopold may, perhaps, not like the joking with his first order. Such nonsense should, certainly, be done with solemnity, or it becomes, what it really is, a little tinsel and a few yards of broad ribbon. The Prince, entre nous, is not very wise, but he is a good creature, and we are great friends. I have wrote to Mrs. Dickinson. I forget whether you have or not. If not, pray do it soon, for you know she is a good friend of yours. I have just received your good letter. I am glad they have taken the Garda Patana's son-in-law. I insist upon Smith's letting the Regent of the Vicaria know of his having stabbed my porter. He ought to go to the galleys, and my honour is concerned if this insult offered my liveries unnoticed. The girl had better cry than be ill-used, and her father killed. Adieu, my sweet M. Yours, with all my heart, W.H. 3. Persano, Friday evening, January 6th, 1792. I enclose our friend Knight's admirable letter to you. I could not refrain reading it, and I am sure it was his intention I should do so, having left it unsealed. He is a fine fellow. It was worth going to England to secure such a sensible friend. You will probably have seen General Werner last night. This is Friday night, and he will have told you I am well. We have been out all day in the rain. I killed none, and the King and party but few. Such obstinate bad weather I really never experienced for so long a time together. You did perfectly right in buying the lamps, and I am glad the Prince asked to dine with you. I am sure he was comfortably received by you. You see what devils there are in England. They wanted to stir up something against me, but our conduct shall be such as to be unattackable, and I fear not an injustice from England. 27 years' service, having spent all the king's money, and all my own, besides running in debt, deserves something better than a dismission. The king has declared he will return to Naples next Saturday se'nnight, so you know the worst, my dear Emma. Indeed, I shall embrace you most cordially, for I would not be married to any woman but yourself on earth for all the world. Lord A. Hamilton's son, you see, recommends a friend of his, who, I suppose, is arrived. If so, receive him well. Adieu again. Yours ever, W. H. 4. Persano, Saturday night, January 7th, 1792. This has been one of the cruel days which attend the king's chase. All the posts, except the king's, Prince Osberg, Donerato, and Priori, bad. We have been out all day in cold rain without seeing a boar. The king has killed 25, and a wolf, and the other good posts in proportion. Why not rather leave us at home than go out with the impossibility of sport? But we must take the good and bad, or give it up. Lamberg is too delicate for this business. He has been in bed with a slight fever all to-day. You will have another boar to-day, which boar being a sow, I have made a bull. The sows are much better than the boars, so you may keep some to eat at home, and dispose of the rest to your favourite English. I am glad all goes on so well. I never doubted your gaining every soul you approach. I am far from being angry at your feeling the loss of me so much. Nay, I am flattered, but believe me, the time will soon come that we shall meet. Years pass seemingly in an instant. Why then afraid of a few days? Upon the whole, we are sociable here, but we go to bed at 9 and get up at 5 o'clock. I generally read an hour to digest my supper, but indeed I live chiefly on bread and butter. Salandra desires his compliments to you, as does Lamberg and Prince Osberg. Adieu, my dear Emma. Ever yours, and yours alone, W. H. I send you back your 2 letters. Dutton's was very satisfactory. I send the papers to Smith, who will give them to you first, if you have not read them. The cold and fatigue makes my hand something like yours, which, by the by, you neglect rather too much. But, as what you write is good sense, everybody will forgive the scrawl. 5. Sunday night, January 8th, 1792. We are come in late, and I have but a moment to tell you we are well, and I have killed 3 large boars, a fox, and 4 woodcocks. Nothing pleases me more than to hear you do not neglect your singing. It would be a pity, as you are near the point of perfection. Adieu, my dearest Emma. Yours with my whole soul, W. H. 6. Persano, Monday, January 10th, 9th, 1792. Your letter of yesterday, my sweet Em, gave me great pleasure, as I see all goes on perfectly right for you at Naples. Your business and mine is to be civil to all, and not enter into any party matters. If the Wilkinsons are not content with our civilities, let them help themselves. We have had a charming day, and most excellent sport. More than 100 wild boars and 2 wolves have fallen. I killed 5 boars, truly monsters, and a fox. Vincenzo could not follow me today. He cannot walk 2 steps without being out of breath. However, I load the guns myself, and with the peasant I brought from Caserta, and another I hire here. I do very well. I fear poor Vincenzo will not hold long. If he chooses it, I mean to send him to Naples, to consult Nudi. General Werner, Prince of Hesse, and Count Zeitcher are here since last night. They brought me your compliments. Lamberg is still confined. Amuse yourself, my dear Emma, and never doubt of my love. Yours ever, W. H. 7. Persano, Tuesday, January 10th, 1792. The day has been so thoroughly bad that we have not been able to stir out, and the king, of course, in bad humour. I am not sorry to have a day's repose, and I have wrote my letters for tomorrow's post. Lamberg is still in bed with a fever, and Prince Osberg's eyes are a little inflamed with cold and fatigue. My cold was renewed a little yesterday, but a good night's rest and quiet today has set all to rights again. Vincenzo was so bad yesterday that he could not follow me, and was blooded. He is better today, but he will never serve more, except to load my guns at the post. He cannot walk a mile without being out of breath. I am glad you have been at the academy, and in the great world. It is time enough for you to find out that the only real comfort is to be met with at home. I have been in that secret some time. You are certainly the most domestic young woman I know, but you are young and most beautiful, and it would not be natural if you did not like to shew yourself a little in public. The effusion of tenderness with regard to me in your letter is very flattering. I know the value of it, and will do all I can to keep it alive. We are now one flesh, and it must be our study to keep that flesh as warm and comfortable as we can. I will do all in my power to please you, and I do not doubt of your doing the same towards me. Adieu, my dearest Emma. Having nothing interest to write, and as you insist upon hearing from me every day, you must content yourself with such a stupid letter as this. Your ladyship's commands shall always be punctually obeyed by, dear madam, your ladyship's most obedient and faithful servant, W. Hamilton. 8. Persano, Wednesday, 11th January, 1792. I have just received your letter, and, as I always do, with infinite pleasure. I hope you received 12 wood biddies today, and tomorrow you will have a wild boar, all left to your discretion. No talk of returning yet. We must complete 16 days' shooting, and 1 day has been lost by bad weather. We had a good day, and tolerable sport. I have killed 2, and one the largest boar I have seen yet here. Vincenzo, they say, will be well in a day or 2, as it is only a cold. I fear it more serious. The king has killed 21 boars today, and is quite happy. The Germans all drink tea with me every evening. Lamberg is better. Adieu, my ever dear Emma. We are always in a hurry, though we have absolutely nothing to do but kill, examine, and weigh wild boars. I assure you that I shall rejoice when I can embrace you once more. A picture would not content me. Your image is more strongly represented on my heart than any that could be produced by human art. Your most affectionate husband, W.H. 9. Persano, Thursday night, January 12th, 1792. Never put yourself in a hurry, my dear Emma. I have got your 2 kind letters. Send for Gasparo, and give your orders that the servants attend your call, and let him discharge them if they do not. You are my better half, and may command. Translate this part of the letter to him. We have had good sport today, though the bad weather came on at 11 o'clock. 54 wild boars have been killed. I had 7 shot, and killed 5, 3 of which are enormous. I dispose of the boar I send you today as you think proper. I always thought Rispoli a dirty fellow, but what has he done of late? As to your mother's going with you to the English parties, very well, but believe me, it will be best for her, and more to her happiness, to stay at home, than go with you to the Neapolitan parties. The king is in good humour today, as I foretold. We continue to dine at 8 at night, and have nothing from breakfast to that hour, but I give tea and bread and butter, of which Prince Osberg and Lamberg partake with pleasure. The prince, having no opportunity of making love, does nothing but talk of his new flame, which is Lady A. Hatton. I put him right, for he thought she spelt her name with 2 R instead of 2 T. I rejoice at your having April again. Pray tell him so, for I know the rapid progress you will make under his care. My cold is near gone. The worst is, my room smokes confoundedly, and so do all the other rooms except the king's. Adieu, my dear Emma. Amuse yourself as well as you can.
Section 10 of the Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Drew Mack. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2 by Horatio Nelson. The Letters from Sir William Hamilton to Lady Hamilton, Letters 10 to 17. 10. Persano, Friday night, January the 13th, 1792. We have had a miserable cold day, but good sport. I killed 2 boars and a doe, the king 19 boars, 2 stags, 2 does, and a porcupine. He is happy beyond expression. I send you Charles's letter, but do not lose it, as I will answer it when I return. You see the line we have taken will put it out of the power of our enemies to hurt us. I will give up my judgment of worldly matters to no one. I approve of all you do in my absence, but it would be nonsense and appear affected to carry your scruples too far. Divert yourself reasonably. I am sure of your attachment to me, and I shall not easily be made to alter my opinion of you. My cold is better, notwithstanding the weather. I have no time to angler, so adieu, my dearest wife. Yours, W.H. P.S. Let Gasparo pay 30 ducats for the vase to Donna Andrea. By way of charity, we may give 30 ounces to that shabby dog, Hadrava, though he knows the picture is not worth more than 10 at most. His writing to you in such a style is pitiful indeed. You will often have such letters, if you do not tell him now that it is for once and for all. 11. Persano, Saturday the 14th of January, 1792. My dear Emma, I have received a letter from Douglas, with one enclosed from Mr. Durno, who, to my surprise, says he has not received my order on Biddulph, Cox & Co. for £1,590, which you know I sent from Caserta. I find in my book of letters, 20th of December, that I wrote that day a letter to Mr. Burgess, to deliver to Messrs. Biddulph & Co., to Lord Abercorn, and to Mr. Durno, with the order enclosed. Pray send for Smith, and ask him if he remembers having put such letters in the post, and let him inquire at the Naples post about them, and let him send the enclosed by Tuesday's post to Rome. I certainly will not give another order until this matter is cleared up. I fear some roguery. We have had a fine day, and killed numberless boars, 150 at least. I have killed 4 out of 6 shot, and am satisfied, as one is a real monster. The king 30, Honorato 18, and so on, the favoured shooters. Vincenzo is rather better, but not able to serve me. My best compliments to Alexander Hamilton. You did well to invite Copley. Adieu, my sweet M. Ever yours, indeed and in truth. W.H. 12. Persano, Sunday, January the 15th, 1792. You did admirably, my dear M., in not inviting Lady A.H. to dine with the Prince, and still better in telling her honestly the reason. I have always found that going straight is the best method. though not the way of the world. You did also very well in asking Madame Skamuski, and not taking upon you to present her without leave. In short, consult your own good sense, and do not be in a hurry, and I am sure you will always act right. We have been at it again this morning, and killed 50 boars, but we're home to dinner at 1 o'clock, and this is the first dinner I have had since I left you, for I cannot eat meat breakfast or suppers, and have absolutely lived on bread and butter and tea. As the Prince asked you, you did well to send for a song to Douglas's, but in general you will do right to sing only at home. The King is very kind to me, and shows everyone that he really loves me, and he commends my shooting, having missed but very few, and killed the largest of the society. Only think of his not being satisfied with killing more than 30 yesterday. He said if the wind had favoured him, he should have killed 60 at least. We must be civil to Mr. Hope, as recommended by Lord Auckland, and also to Monsieur de Rochemont and Prince Bozatinsky, as recommended by my friend Saussure. I enclose his letter, as you are mentioned in it, also Knight's, as you desire. God knows we have no secrets, nor, I hope, ever shall. We have much business between this and Saturday, and we are about to shoot Saturday morning, so that we shall arrive late. What say you to a feet washing that night? O che gusto, when your prima ora is over and all gone. Adieu, my sweet Emma. Ever yours, W.H. 13. Persano, Monday night, January the 16th, 1792. For your long and interesting letter, I can only write a line to tell you I am well. We have been out till an hour in the night from daybreak, and I have fired off my gun but once, having had a bad post. The King and favoured party have diverted themselves. Tomorrow will probably be a good day for me. Pray let Smith get orders for the museum, etc., for Lord Boyle and Mr. Dodge, as they are recommended by Mr. Eden. Adieu, my lovely Emma. Let them all roll on the carpet, etc., provided you are not of the party. My trust is in you alone. Yours ever, W.H. 14. Persano, Tuesday night, January the 17th, 1792. I told you, my dear M., that I expected good sport today. I have killed 5 boars, and 2 great ones got off after falling. 2 bucks, 6 does, and a hare. 14 in all. By the by, I must tell you that accept and accept are totally different. You always write, I did not accept of the invitation, when you know it should be accept. It is only for want of giving yourself time to think, but as this error has been repeated, I thought best to tell you of it. Pray write a very kind letter to our friend the Archbishop, and convince him that Emma to her friends is unalterable. Do not say a word about the telescope, for I must try it first against mine. If it should be better, I cannot part with it, as you know how much use we make of a telescope. The King has killed 81 animals, of one sort or another, today, and amongst them a wolf and some stags. He fell asleep in the couch, and waking told me he had been dreaming of shooting. One would have thought he had shed blood enough. This is a heavy air. Nobody eats with appetite, and many are ill with colds. We shall be home on Saturday, and indeed, my sweet Emma, I shall be most happy to see you. Tomorrow we go to a mountain, but no expectation of sport. Yours ever, my dear wife, W.H. 15. Persano, Wednesday, January the 18th, 1792. It was not your white and silver alone that made you look like an angel at the Academy. Suppose you had put it on 9 parts out of 10 of the ladies in company. Would any one have appeared angelic? I will allow, however, that a beautiful woman, feeling herself well dressed, will have a sort of confidence, which will add greatly to the lustre of her eye. But take my word that for some years to come, the more simple you dress, the more conspicuous will be your beauty, which, according to my idea, is the most perfect I have yet met with. Take it all in all. It is a long-faced day with the King. We went far, the weather was bad, and after all met with little or no game. I did not fire off my gun. Yesterday, when we brought home all we killed, it filled the house completely, and today they are obliged to whitewash the walls to take away the blood. There were more than 400, boars, deer, stags, and all. Tomorrow we are to have another slaughter, and not a word of reason or common sense do I meet with the whole day, till I retire to my volumes of Old Gentleman's Magazine, which just keeps my mind from starving. Except today on a mountain, I have never felt the least appetite. There I eat the wings of a cold chicken with pleasure. Hamilton is delighted with your civilities. He has wrote me a long letter. I do not mean to keep pace with him in writing, so send him a line or two only in answer. I do not recollect the name of Marino Solania, and if I received a letter from him, it was in the hurry of my arrival, and is lost. So that Smith may desire the Dutch consul to write again, and I will answer. I always rejoice when I find you do not neglect your singing. I am, I own, ambitious of producing something extraordinary in you, and it is nearly done. Adieu, my sweet M. I rejoice that the time of our reunion is so near. Saturday night. W.H. 16. Venasso, Friday the 27th of January, 1794. My dear M., by having grumbled a little, I got a better post today, and have killed 2 boars and a sow, all enormous. I have missed but 2 shots since I came here, and to be sure, when the post is good, it is noble shooting, the rocks and mountains as wild as the boars. The news you sent me of poor Lord Pembroke gave me a little twist, but I have for some time perceived that my friends, with whom I spent my younger days, have been dropping around me. Lord Pembroke's neck was very short, and his father died of an apoplexy. My study of antiquities has kept me in constant thought of the perpetual fluctuation of everything. The whole art is really to live all the days of our life, and not with anxious care disturb the sweetest hour that life affords, which is the present. Admire the Creator in all his works, to us incomprehensible, and do all the good you can upon earth, and take the chance of eternity without dismay. You must tell the Archbishop that he will have the Leyden Gazettes a week later, as I cannot read them time enough to send by this messenger. The weather is delightful, and I believe we shall have done all our business, so as to return on Thursday. Pray find out if the Queen goes to Caserta. Here all is a profound secret. I must work hard, myself at translating, when I return, for I believe the language master totally incapable of it. I dined this morning at 9 o'clock, and I think it agreed better with me than tea. I found myself growing weak for want of a good meal, not daring to eat much at supper. Adieu, my sweet love. Adieu. Divert yourself. I shall soon be at you again. Yours ever, W.H. 17. Burford, 80 miles from London, Saturday night, July the 27th, 1801. Here we are, my dear Emma, after a pleasant day's journey. No extraordinary occurrence, our chaise is good, and would have held the famous Triadjuncta in Uno very well. But we must submit to the circumstances of the times. Sir Joseph Banks we found in bed with the gout, and last night his hothouse was robbed of its choicest fruit, peaches and nectarines. Amuse yourself as well as you can, and you may be assured that I shall return as soon as possible, and you shall hear from me often. Ever yours, my dear Emma, with the truest affection, William Hamilton. My kindest love to my lord, if he is not gone. P.S. Corn at this market fell £15 a load today. End of section 10. Section 11 of the Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Drew Mack. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Letters from Sir William Hamilton to Lord Nelson. Letters 1 to 6. 1. Written before Lord Nelson's elevation to the peerage. Naples, March 26th, 1796. My dear Sir, the moment I received your letter of the 11th of March from Lagoon, I went with it to General Acton, and although I could not, from your letter only, in my ministerial character, demand from this court the assistance of some of their xebecs, corvettes, etc., that are the fittest for going near shore, as I think with you that such vessels are absolutely necessary on the present occasion. I told His Excellency that I trusted, as this government had hitherto shown itself as sanguine in the good cause, and more so than any of the allies of Great Britain, that he would lay your letter before the King of Naples, and, without waiting for the demand which I should probably receive from Sir John Jervis, send you such small armed vehicles as His Excellency thought would be proper for the service in which you are employed. The General, without hesitation, said that orders should be immediately given for the preparing of such a flotilla, which should join you as soon as the weather would permit. At present, indeed, it is not very encouraging for rowboats. We wait a courier from Vienna to decide the march of 8,800 infantry, and artillery included, intended to join the Emperor's army in Italy, and although the Grand Duke of Tuscany has refused the permission for these troops to march through his dominions, the King of Naples has told his son-in-law that whenever the safety of Italy should require it, he would nevertheless march them through Tuscany, a liberty which the Emperor would otherwise take whenever the good of the service required it. However, the 1,000 cavalry sent from hence have taken their route by Loreto through the Pope's state. We have had, as I suppose you know, the Admirals Hotham and Goodall here. For some weeks I can, entre nous, perceive that my old friend Hotham is not quite awake enough for such a command as that of the King's fleet in the Mediterranean, although he appears the best creature imaginable. I did not know much of your friend Lord Hood personally, but by his correspondence with me, his activity and clearness was most conspicuous. Lady Hamilton and I admire your constancy, and hope the severe service you have undergone will be handsomely rewarded. When I reported to Lord Grenville in my last dispatch the letter I received from you lately, I could not help giving you the epithet of that brave officer, Captain Nelson. If you do not deserve it, I know not who does. With our love to Sam, I am ever, dear sir, yours sincerely, William Hamilton. 2. Palermo, February the 13th, 1799. My Lord, having received an application from this government that they might be supplied with lead from on board the British merchant ships in this harbour that have that article on board, and that without the help of about 100 cantara of lead, this country and the common cause would be much distressed. I am to beg of your lordship to use your kind endeavours that this urgent want may be supplied as soon as possible. Well understood that the proprietors of this article should be perfectly satisfied with this government as to the price of the lead, freight, etc. I have the honour to be, my lord, your lordship's most obedient and most humble servant, William Hamilton. 3. Palermo, Sunday night late. Near winding up watch hour, May the 19th, 1799. My very dear Lord, 10,000 thanks for your kind attention in sending us Hallowell's letter to Trowbridge. It comforts us in one respect, as it flatters us with Commodore Duckworth's 4 ships joining you soon. But, I must own, from the junction of 5 Spanish ships and frigates, I now think something more than going into Toulon is intended, and that your lordship may have a brush with them. God send you every success that your unparalleled virtues and bravery so well merit. Adieu, my dear lord. Your lordship's truly affectionate and eternally attached William Hamilton. 4. Palermo, May 26th, 1799. My dear Lord, whilst Emma was writing to your lordship, I have been with Acton, to get a felucca to send Ball's dispatch to you. It is of so old a date that I make no doubt of Ball's having joined you before his dispatch reaches. I send your lordship an interesting letter I have just received from our consul at Trieste, and Acton's answer to my yesterday's letter, communicating your kind resolution of taking care of their Sicilian majesties and their kingdoms, and which your lordship will see gives them great satisfaction. As to the fleet having been seen by the towers near Messina and to the westward, I believe it was your squadron. I send you likewise a strange rhapsody from Lord Bristol, but something may be collected from it, or at least it will amuse you, and you have leisure enough on board, which I have not on shore. Be so good as to send that letter and Graham's by the first opportunity. Above all, take care of your health. That is the first of blessings. May God ever protect you. We miss you heavily, but a short time must clear up the business, and we hope bring you back to those who love and esteem you to the very bottom of their souls. Ever your affectionate friend and humble servant, William Hamilton. 5. Palermo, June 17th, 1799. My dear Lord, I am happy to receive the packet from Major Magrath, and which I shall instantly send to General Acton. Nothing has happened worth telling you since the few hours we have been separated. God bless you, my dear friend, and my mind tells me that you will soon have reason, either by good news or by a proper reinforcement sent to you, to be in a much happier state of mind that you possibly could be when you left us this morning. All looks melancholy without you. Ever, my dear Lord, your truly attached friend, William Hamilton. 6. Palermo, June 20th, 1799, 8 o'clock at night. My dear Lord, having wrote fully by the felucca today that went off at 3 o'clock, and have not yet General Acton's answer, with respect to what the court would wish you to do when you hear how the French fleet is disposed of, I have nothing to write by the transport. God bless you, and I hope somehow or other we shall meet again soon. My dear Lord, yours most sincerely, William Hamilton. End of section 11. Recording by Drumac. Section 12 of the Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Drumac. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Letters from Sir William Hamilton to Lord Nelson, Letters 7 to 12. 7. Piccadilly, February the 19th, 1801. My dear Lord, whether Emma will be able to write to you today or not is a question, as she has got one of her terrible sick headaches. Among other things that vex her is that we have been drawn in to be under the absolute necessity of giving a dinner to on Sunday next. He asked it himself, having expressed his strong desire of hearing Banty's and Emma's voices together. I am well aware of the danger that would attend frequenting our house. Not that I fear that Emma could ever be induced to act contrary to the prudent conduct she has hitherto pursued, but the world is so ill-natured that the worst construction is put upon the most innocent action. As this dinner must be, or would be offended, I shall keep it strictly to the musical part. Invite only Banty, her husband, and Taylor. And I wish to show a civility to Davison. I have sent him an invitation. In short, we will get rid of it as well as we can, and guard against its producing more meetings of the same sort. Emma would really have gone any lengths to have avoided Sunday's dinner, but I thought it would not be prudent to break with who really has shown the greatest civility to us when we were last in England, and since we returned, and she has, at last, acquiesced to my opinion. I have been thus explicit, as I know well your lordship's way of thinking, and your very kind attachment to us, and everything that concerns us. The King caught cold at the chapel the other day, and there was no levee yesterday, and today the Queen alone will be at the drawing-room, and I believe the new ministry will not be quite fixed until the levee day next week. As to my business, I have done all I can to bring it to a point. The pension recommended by Lord Grenville was only like Walpole's, a nominal £2,000. I have represented the injustice of that, and after my having had the King's promise of not being removed from Naples but at my own request, and having only empowered Lord Grenville to remove me, on securing to me a net income of £2,000 per annum. Lord Grenville has recommended to the Treasury the taking my extraordinary expenses into consideration. I have fully demonstrated to Lord Grenville and Treasury that £8,000 is absolutely necessary for the clearing of my unfunded debt, without making up for my losses. Upon the whole, then, I do not expect to get more than the net annuity above mentioned, and the £8,000. But unless that is granted, I shall, indeed, have been very ill-used. I hope in my next to be able to inform you, lordship, that all has been finally settled. I am busy in putting in order the remains of my vases and pictures that you so kindly saved for me on board the Four Doyens, and the sale of them will enable me to go on more at my ease, and not leave a debt unpaid. But, unfortunately, there have been too many picture sales this year, and mine will come late. Adieu, my very dear lord. May health and success attend you, wherever you go. And I flatter myself this political jumble may hasten a pace and bring you back soon. Your lordship's ever obliged and most sincerely attached friend and servant, William Hamilton. 8. Piccadilly, February the 20th, 1801. You need not be the least alarmed that Emma has commissioned me to send you the newspapers, and write you a line, to tell you that she is much better, having vomited naturally, and is now purposing to take a regular one of tartar emetic. All her convulsive complaints certainly proceed from a foul stomach, and I will answer for it. She will be in spirits to write to you herself tomorrow. Adieu, my very dear lord, I have not a moment to lose as the bell is going. Your ever attached and obliged humble servant, William Hamilton. 9. Piccadilly, March the 7th, 1801. My very dear Lord, I wish it was in my power to profit of your kind invitation, and you would soon see me and Emma on board the St. George. But I am now totally occupied in preparing for the sale of my pictures, and what I have saved of my vases. To my great satisfaction, I have found some of the most capital vases, and which I thought surely lost on board the Colossus. It has comforted me much. We remain in the same cruel state with respect to the King's recovery. There can be no doubt but that His Majesty is better. However, if my conjectures are true, the Regency must soon take place, as it may be long before His Majesty could be troubled with business, supposing even his fever to have totally subsided, and the time admits of no delays. We see now the certainty of the French squadron being in the Mediterranean. God knows how all this will end, but I hope it will be your Lordship's lot to bring Paul to his senses. God send you every success and send you home safe and well, crowned with additional laurels, and then I hope you will repose your shattered frame and make your friends happy by staying with them. Emma is certainly much better, but not quite free from bile. Ever, my dear Lord, your Lordship's most attached and eternally obliged humble servant, William Hamilton. 10. Piccadilly, April the 16th, 1801. What can I say, my dear Lord, that would convey the smallest idea of what we felt yesterday on receiving the authentic letters confirming your late most glorious victory, and read in your own hand that God had not only granted you complete success against the enemies of our country, but in the midst of such perils prevented you receiving the smallest scratch. We can only repeat what we know well, and often said before, that Nelson was, is, and to the last will ever be the first. However, we all agree that when we get you safe home once more, that you should no more risk your shattered frame. You have done enough, and are well entitled to the motto of Virgil, Hic victor castus artemque repono. The famous Broughton, after he had beaten every opponent that dared to measure hard blows with him, set up an alehouse, the Broughton's Head, in London, with the above verse of Virgil under it. Some years after, he was persuaded to accept the challenge of a coachman, and was beaten. Not that I mean to convey that any such thing could happen to your Lordship, but you have done enough. Let others follow your examples. They will be remembered to the latest posterity. It appeared to me most extraordinary that the 6th inst., the date of your last letter to Emma, the death of the Emperor Paul, which we have no doubt of here, should not be known at Copenhagen. It appears to us that, as soon as that great event is known in Sweden and Denmark, with the severe blow that you have just given the latter, the formidable giant Northern coalition will of itself fall to pieces, and after that we shall have the happiness of embracing you again here in a very short time. You would have laughed to have seen what I saw yesterday. Emma did not know whether she was on her head or heels, in such a hurry to tell your great news, that she could utter nothing but tears of joy and tenderness. I went to Davison yesterday morning, and found him still in bed, having had a severe fit of the gout, and with your letter which he had just received, and he cried like a child, but, what was very extraordinary, assured me that, from the instant he had read your letter, all pain had left him, and that he felt himself able to get up and walk about. Your brother, Mrs. Nelson, and Horace dined with us. Your brother was more extraordinary than ever. He would get up suddenly and cut a caper, rubbing his hands every time that the thought of your fresh laurels came into his head. In short, except myself, and your Lordship knows that I have some phlegm, All the company, which was considerable after dinner, the Duke, Lord William, Mr. Este, etc., were mad with joy. But I am sure that no one really rejoiced more at heart than I did. I have lived too long to have ecstasies, but with calm reflection I felt for my friend having got to the very summit of glory, the ne plus ultra, that he has had another opportunity of rendering his country the most important service, and manifesting again his judgment, his intrepidity, and humanity. God bless you, my very dear Lord, and send you soon home to your friends. Enemies you have none but those that are bursting with envy, and such animals invest all parts of the world. The King, be assured, is the weak guessing well fast. Lord Loughborough told Livingston, who has just been here, that he was with the King the day before yesterday, before and after delivery of the seals, and that he was perfectly calm and recollected. Ever your sincerely attached and truly obliged humble servant, William Hamilton. 11. Milford, August the 12th, 1801. My dear Lord, Emma has constantly given me every possible intelligence relative to your Lordship, and the important operations you're about at this most interesting moment. You have already calmed the minds of everybody with respect to the threatened French invasion. In short, all your Lordship does is complete, like yourself and nobody else. But still I think there is no occasion for the Commander-in-Chief to expose his person as much as you do. Why should you not have a private flag known to your fleet and not to the enemy, when you shift it and go reconnoitring? Captain Hopkins, going from hence in the Speedwell cutter to join your Lordship, will be happy to introduce himself to you by presenting this letter himself. They give him a good character in this country, but my acquaintance with him is but of 2 days. I was yesterday with Captain Dobbins in the Diligence cutter. We sailed out of this glorious harbour, and the day being fine, sailed out some leagues, and examined the Crow Rock, which is reckoned the greatest danger as to entering the harbour. But the 2 lighthouses lately erected take off all danger in the night, and it is visible in the daytime except a short time in spring tides. I am delighted with the improvements at Milford. It will surely be a great town. If we have peace in 3 years, the houses rising up like mushrooms, even in these difficult times. We allow anyone to build at their own expense, at an easy ground rent, and to fall in at the expiration of 3 lives, or 60 years. You may judge that having 2,000 acres all round the town, these inhabitants will want land for cows and horses and gardens, etc., and of course I must be a gainer in the end. I visited the 2 lighthouses, and found them perfectly clean and in good order, and I never could conceive the brilliant lights that they give. One has 16 reflected lights, and the other 10. Today I go upon my last visit to Lord Milford, and on Saturday set out for Piccadilly. And where I am not without hopes of meeting your Lordship, as I think in the manner you dispatch business, you will have completed all by Wednesday next, the day I shall probably be in London. Charles Greville's kind compliments. The name of Nelson is in every mouth, and indeed we owe everything to your judgment and exertions. Adieu. God bless you. Ever your Lordship's affectionate friend and obliged humble servant, William Hamilton. 12. Piccadilly, April the 28th, 1802. My dear Lord, Emma says I must write a letter to you of condolence for the heavy loss your Lordship has suffered. When persons in the prime of life are carried off by accidents or sickness, or what is, I believe, oftener the case, by the ignorance and mistakes of the physicians, then indeed there is reason to lament. But, as in the case of your good father, the lamp was suffered to burn out fairly, and that his sufferings were not great, and that by his son's glorious and unparalleled success, He saw his family ennobled, and with the probability in time of it being amply rewarded as it ought to have been long ago. His mind could not be troubled in his latter moments on account of the family he left behind him, and as to his own peace of mind, at the moment of his dissolution, there can be no doubt among those who ever had the honour of his acquaintance. I have said more than I intended, but dare say your lordship had nearly the same thoughts, with the addition of the feelings of a dutiful son for the loss of a most excellent father. It is, however, now, as your lordship is the father of your family, incumbent upon you to take particular care of your own health. Nay, you are, by the voice of the nation, its first prop and support. Keep up your spirits, and that you may long enjoy your well-earned honours, is the sincere wish of your lordship's affectionate friend and attached humble servant, William Hamilton. End of section 12. Recording by Drumac.
Section 13 of The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Adrian Wheel. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Letters from Lord Nelson to Sir William Hamilton. Letter 1. Bastia, May the 24th, 1794. My dear Sir, will you have the goodness to forward the enclosed to Mr. Brand, and to present my letter to Lady Hamilton? Every lover of his country will rejoice in our great and almost unexampled success, to the honour of my Lord Hood, and to the shame of those who opposed his endeavours to serve his country. General Stuart, I am happy to say, is just arrived. We shall now join, heart and hand, against Calvi. When conquered, I shall hope to pay my respects to your Excellency at Naples, which will give real pleasure to your very faithful and obliged Horatio Nelson. Letter 2. Agamemnon, Leghorn, March the 11th, 1796. Sir, Mr. Wyndham having communicated to Mr. Udney the conversation of the French minister with the Tuscans, I cannot, being entrusted by the Admiral with the command of the small squadron in the Gulf of Genoa, but think it right for me to beg that your Excellency will apply for such vessels of war belonging to his Sicilian Majesty as may be judged proper to cruise in the Gulf of Genoa, and particularly off the point of the Gulf of Aspecia. Xebecs, corvettes, and frigates are the fittest to cruise, and the first have the great advantage of rowing, as well as sailing, I am told, very fast. General Acton knows, full as well as myself, the vessels proper to prevent the disembarkation of troops on this coast. Therefore, I shall not particularly point them out. Last campaign the word flotilla was misunderstood. I can only say that all vessels which can sail and row must be useful, and for small craft, Port Aspecia is a secure harbour. Whatever is to be done should be done speedily, for by Mr. Wyndham's account we have no time to lose. If we have the proper vessels, I am confident the French will not be able to bring their 10,000 men by sea, and should they attempt to pass through the Genoese territories, I hope the Austrians will prevent them. But, however, should all our precautions not be able to prevent the enemies possessing themselves of Leghorn, yet we are not to despair. 14 days from their entry, if the allied powers unite heartily, I am confident we shall take them all prisoners. I am confident it can, and therefore, should such an unlucky event take place as their possessing themselves of Leghorn, I hope will, be done. I have sent to the Admiral. I am very lately from off Toulon, where 13 sail of the line and 5 frigates are ready for sea, and others fitting. With my best respects to Lady Hamilton, believe me, dear Sir, your Excellency's most obedient servant, Horatio Nelson. Letter 3. Vanguard, Syracuse, July the 20th, 1798. My dear Sir, it is an old saying, the devil's children have the devil's luck. I cannot find, or to this moment learn beyond vague conjecture, where the French fleet are gone to. All my ill fortune, hitherto, has proceeded from want of frigates. Off Cape Passaro, on the 22nd of June, at daylight, I saw 2 frigates which were supposed to be French, and it has been said since that a line of battleship was to leeward of them, with the riches of Malta on board. But it was the destruction of the enemy, and not riches for myself, that I was seeking. These would have fell to me, if I had had frigates, but, except the ship of the line, I regard not all the riches in this world. From my information off Malta, I believed they were gone to Egypt. Therefore, on the 28th, I was communicating with Alexandria in Egypt, where I found the Turks preparing to resist them, but knew nothing beyond report. From thence I stretched over to the coast of Caramania, where, not speaking a vessel who could give me information, I became distressed for the kingdom of the Two Sicilies, and having gone a round of 600 leagues at this season of the year, with a single ship, with an expedition incredible, here I am, as ignorant of the situation of the enemy as I was 27 days ago. I sincerely hope the dispatches, which I understand are at Cape Passaro, will give me full information. I shall be able, for 9 or 10 weeks longer, to keep the fleet on active service, when we shall want provisions and stores. I send a paper on that subject herewith. Mr. Littledale is, I suppose, sent up by the Admiral to victual us, and I hope he will do it cheaper than any other person. But if I find out that he charges more than the fair price, and has not provisions of the very best quality, I will not take them, for as no fleet has more fag than this, nothing but the best food and greatest attention can keep them healthy. At this moment we have not one sick man in the fleet. In about 6 days I shall sail from hence, and if I hear nothing more of the French, I shall go to the archipelago, where, if they are gone towards Constantinople, I shall hear of them. I shall go to Cyprus, and if they are gone to Alexandretta, or any other part of Syria or Egypt, I shall get information. You will, I am sure, and so will our country, easily conceive what has passed in my anxious mind, but I have this comfort, that I have no fault to accuse myself of. This bears me up, and this only. I send you a paper, where a letter is fixed for different places, which I may leave at any place, and except those who have the key, none can tell where I am gone to. July the 21st. The messenger is returned from Cape Passaro, and says that your letters for me are returned to Naples. What a situation am I placed in! As yet I can learn nothing of the enemy, therefore I have no conjecture but that they are gone to Syria, and at Cyprus I hope to hear of them. If they were gone to westward, I rely that every place in Sicily would have information for me, for it is too important news to leave me in one moment's doubt about. I have no frigate, or a sign of one. The masts, yards, etc., for the vanguard will, I hope, be prepared directly, for should the French be so strongly secured in port that I cannot get at them, I shall immediately shift my flag into some other ship, and send the vanguard to Naples to be refitted, for hardly any person but myself would have continued on service so long in such a wretched state. I want to send a great number of papers to Lord St. Vincent, but I durst not trust any person here to carry them, even to Naples. Pray, send a copy of my letter to Lord Spencer. He must be very anxious to hear of this fleet. I have taken the liberty of troubling your Excellency with a letter for Lady Nelson. Pray forward it for me, and believe me, with the greatest respect, your most obedient servant, Horatio Nelson. Sent on shore to the charge of the Governor of Syracuse. Letter 4. Vanguard, Syracuse, July the 22nd, 1798. My dear Sir, I have had so much said about the King of Naples' orders only to admit 3 or 4 of the ships of our fleet into his ports, that I am astonished. I understood that private orders at least would have been given for our free admission. If we are to be refused supplies, pray send me, by many vessels, an account, that I may in good time take the King's fleet to Gibraltar. Our treatment is scandalous for a great nation to put up with, and the King's flag is insulted at every friendly port we look at. I am, with greatest respect, your most obedient servant, Horatio Nelson. P.S. I do not complain of the want of attention in individuals, for all classes of people are remarkably attentive to us. Sent on shore to the charge of the Governor of Syracuse. Letter 5. Vanguard, mouth of the Nile, August the 8th, 1798. My dear Sir, Almighty God has made me the happy instrument in destroying the enemy's fleet, which, I hope, will be a blessing to Europe. You will have the goodness to communicate this happy event to all the courts in Italy, for my head is so indifferent that I can scarcely scrawl this letter. Captain Capel, who is charged with my dispatches for England, will give you every information. Pray put him in the quickest mode of getting home. You will not send by post any particulars of this action, as I shall be sorry to have any accounts get home before my dispatches. I hope there will be no difficulty in our getting refitted at Naples. Culloden must be instantly hove down, and Vanguard all new masts and bowsprit. Not more than 4 or 5 sail of the line will probably come to Naples, the rest will go with the prizes to Gibraltar. As this army never will return, I hope to hear the Emperor has regained the whole of Italy. With every good wish, believe me, dear sir, your most obliged and affectionate Horatio Nelson. 9th of August. I have intercepted all Bonaparte's dispatches going to France. This army is in a scrape, and will not get out of it. Letter 6. August the 12th, 1798. My dear Sir, as the greater part of this squadron is going down the Mediterranean, we shall not want the quantity of wine or bread ordered. Therefore, what is not already prepared had better be put a stop to. I will settle all the matter, if ever I live to see Naples. I have the satisfaction to tell you, the French army have got a complaint amongst them, caused by the heat and nothing but water, which will make Egypt the grave of the greatest part. Ever yours, faithfully, Horatio Nelson. End of section 13. Recording by Adrian Wheel. Section 14 of The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Adrian Wheel. The Letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson. Section 14. Letters from Lord Nelson to Sir William Hamilton. Letter 7. Vanguard, off Malta, October the 24th, 1798. My dear Sir, I am just arrived off this place, where I found Captain Ball and the Marquis de Niza. From those officers I do not find such an immediate prospect of getting possession of the town as the ministers at Naples seem to think. All the country, it is true, is in possession of the islanders, and I believe the French have not many luxuries in the town, but as yet their bullocks are not eat up. The Marquis tells me the islanders want arms, victuals, mortars, and cannon to annoy the town. When I get the elect of the people on board, I shall desire them to draw up a memorial for the King of Naples, stating their wants and desires, which I shall bring with me. The Marquis sails for Naples to-morrow morning. Till he is gone, I shall not do anything about the island, but I will be fully master of that subject before I leave this place. God bless you, is the sincere prayer of Horatio Nelson. Letter 8. Vanguard, off Malta, October the 27th, 1798. My dear Sir William, although I believe I shall be at Naples before the cutter, I should be sorry to omit acknowledging your kind letter of the 26th. When I come to Naples, I can have nothing pleasant to say of the conduct of His Sicilian Majesty's ministers towards the inhabitants of Malta, who wish to be under the dominion of their legitimate sovereign. The total neglect and indifference with which they have been treated appears to me cruel in the extreme. Had not the English supplied 1,500 stand of arms, with bayonets, cartouche boxes, and ammunitions, etc., etc., and the Marquis supplied some few, and kept the spirit of those brave islanders from falling off, they must long ago have bowed again to the French yoke. Could you, my dear Sir William, have believed, after what General Acton and the Marquis de Gallo had said, in our various conversations relative to this island, that nothing had been sent by the Governor of Syracuse, secretly, was the word to us, or openly, to this island? And I am farther assured that the Governor of Syracuse never had any orders sent to him to supply the smallest article. I beg your Excellency will state this in confidence to General Acton. I shall most assuredly tell it to the King. The justice I owe myself, now I feel employed in the service of their Sicilian Majesties, demands it of me, and also the duty I owe our gracious King, in order to show that I am doing my utmost to comply with his royal commands. As I have before stated, had it not been for the English, long, long ago, the Maltese must have been overpowered. Including the 1,500 stand of arms given by us, not more than 3,000 are in the island. I wonder how they have kept on the defensive so long. The Emerald will sail, in 24 hours after my arrival, for Malta. At least 2,000 stand of small arms, complete ammunition, etc., etc., should be sent by her. This is wanted to defend themselves. For offence, 2 or 3 large mortars, 1,500 shells with all necessaries, and perhaps a few artillery, 2 10-inch howitzers with 1,000 shells. The Bormola and all the left side of the harbour, with this assistance, will fall. 10,000 men are required to defend those works. The French can only spare 1,200. Therefore, a vigorous assault in many parts, some one must succeed. But who have the government of Naples sent to lead or encourage these people? A very good, and I dare say brave, old man, enervated and shaking with the palsy. This is the sort of man they have sent, without any supply, without even a promise of protection, and without his bringing any answer to the repeated respectful memorials of these people to their sovereign. I know their Majesties must feel hurt when they hear these truths. I may be thought presuming, but I trust General Acton will forgive an honest seaman for telling plain truths. As for the other minister, I do not understand him. We are different men. He has been bred in a court, and I in a rough element. But I believe my heart is as susceptible of the finer feelings as his, and as compassionate for the distress of those who look up to me for protection. The officer sent here should have brought supplies, promises of protection, and an answer from the king to their memorials. He should have been a man of judgment, bravery, and activity. He should be the first to lead them to glory, and the last, when necessary, to retreat. The first to mount the walls of the Bormola, and never to quit it. This is the man to send. Such, many such, are to be found. If he succeeds, promise him rewards. My life for it, the business would soon be over. God bless you. I am anxious to get this matter finished. I have sent Ball this day to summon Goza. If it resists, I shall send on shore and batter down the castle. 3 vessels, loaded with bullocks, etc., for the garrison, were taken yesterday. From Tripoli 10 more are coming, but we shall have them. I had almost forgot to mention that orders should be immediately given that no quarantine should be laid on boats going to the coast of Sicily for corn. At present, as a matter of favour, they have 14 days only. Yesterday there was only 4 days' bread in the island. Luckily, we got hold of a vessel loaded with wheat, and sent her into St. Paul's. Once more, God bless you, and ever believe me, your obliged and affectionate Horatio Nelson. This day I have landed 20 barrels of gunpowder, 2,800 pounds, at Malta. Letter 9. Palermo, January the 10th, 1800. Sir, Your Excellency having had the goodness to communicate to me a dispatch from General Acton, together with several letters from Gigante, giving an account that a violence had been committed in that port by the seizing and carrying off to Malta 2 vessels loaded with corn, I beg leave to express to your Excellency my real concern, that even the appearance of the slightest disrespect should be offered by any officers under my command to the flag of his Sicilian Majesty, and I must request your Excellency to state fully to General Acton that the act ought not to be considered as any intended disrespect to his Sicilian Majesty, but as an act of the most absolute and imperious necessity, either that the island of Malta should have been delivered up to the French, or that the King's orders should be anticipated for these vessels carrying their cargoes of corn to Malta. I trust that the government of this country will never again force any of our royal master's servants to so unpleasant an alternative. I have the honour to be, with the greatest respect, your Excellency's most obedient and faithful servant, B.N. Letter 10. March the 8th, 1800. My dear Sir William, I thank you kindly for all your letters and good wishes. It is my determination, my health requiring it, to come to Palermo and to stay 2 weeks with you. I must again urge that 4 gunboats may be ordered for the service of Malta. They will most essentially assist in the reduction of the place, by preventing small vessels from getting in or out. I think, from the enemy, on the night of the 4th, trying and getting out for a short distance, a very fast-sailing polacca, that Vaubois is extremely anxious to send dispatches to France, to say he cannot much longer hold out, and if our troops, as Captain Blackwood thinks, are coming from Gibraltar and Minorca, I have no idea the enemy will hold out a week. I beg General Acton will order the gunboats. Trowbridge has got the jaundice and is very ill. As I shall so very soon see you, I shall only say that I am ever your obliged and affectionate Bronté Nelson. Letter 11. Palermo, March the 30th, 1800. My dear Sir William, as from the orders I have given to all the ships under my command to arrest and bring into port all the vessels and troops returning by convention with the port to France, and as the Russian ships have similar orders, I must request that your Excellency will endeavour to arrange with the government of this country how in the first instance they are to be treated and received in the ports of the two Sicilies. For it is obvious I can do nothing more than bring them into port, and if they are kept on board ship, the fever will make such ravages as to be little short of the plague. It is a very serious consideration for this country, either to receive them or let them pass, when they would invade, probably, these kingdoms. In my present situation in the King's fleet, I have only to obey. Had I been as before in the command, I should have gone one short and direct road to avert this great evil, viz., to have sent a letter to the French and the Grand Vizier in Egypt that I would not on any consideration permit a single Frenchman to leave Egypt, and I would do it at the risk of even creating a coldness, for the moment, with the Turks. Of two evils choose the least, and nothing can be so horrid as permitting that horde of thieves to return to Europe. If all the wise heads had left them to God Almighty after the bridge was broke, all would have ended well, for I differ entirely with my Commander-in-Chief in wishing they were permitted to return to France, and likewise with Lord Elgin in the great importance of removing them from Egypt. No, there they should perish, has ever been the firm determination of your Excellency's most obedient and faithful servant, Bronté, Nelson of the Nile. Letter 12. Palermo, April the 10th, 1800. My dear Sir William, reports are brought to me that the Spanish ships of war in this port are preparing to put to sea, a circumstance which must be productive of very unpleasant consequences to both England and this country. It is fully known with what exactness I have adhered to the neutrality of this port, for upon our arrival here from Naples in December 1798, from the conduct of His Catholic Majesty's Minister, I should have been fully justified in seizing those ships. We know that one object of the Spanish fleet, combined with the French, was to wrest entirely from the hands of His Sicilian Majesty his kingdoms of the two Sicilies. The Spaniards are, by bad counsels, the tools of the French, and, of course, the bitter enemy of His Sicilian Majesty and family. The conduct I have pursued towards these ships, circumstanced as they are, has been moderate, and truly considerate towards His Sicilian Majesty. The time is now come, that, profiting of my forbearance, the Spanish ships are fitting for sea. It is not possible, if they persist in their preparations, that I can avoid attacking them, even in the port of Palermo, for they never can or shall be suffered to go to sea, and placed in a situation of assisting the French against not only Great Britain, but also the two Sicilies. I have therefore to request that your Excellency will convey my sentiments on this very delicate subject to His Sicilian Majesty's ministers, that they may take measures to prevent such a truly unpleasant event happening, which would be as much against my wish as it can be against theirs, and I request that your Excellency will, through its proper channel, assure His Sicilian Majesty that his safety and honour is as dear to me as that of our royal master. I have the honour to be, with the greatest respect, my dear Sir William, your Excellency's most affectionate, humble servant, Bronté, Nelson of the Nile. End of section 14. Recording by Adrian Wheel. And end of the letters of Lord Nelson to Lady Hamilton, Volume 2, by Horatio Nelson.